and he appears.
This is a friendship that'll never ever end.
Greetings and welcome to Unveiling Reality. How's everybody doing out there? Hope you are all living and doing well and had a great Christmas. This is Dronepocalypse 2024, part 2 of our series about the drone situation going on these days. And if you didn't see part 1, there's a playlist in the description. I encourage you to go check out that playlist because it has part 1 to the series as well as the breaking news reports that I've done on the series. And you will find it very informative, where I cover a lot of the topics that are out there, a lot of the narratives that are going on. There's a lot of deep dives and debunkings and such like that information you need to know that is out there on the current narratives, as well as part 1, where we go and we explain this board right here. This is our root cause analysis board, basically where we're keeping track of the narrative. And we're also kind of deciphering things and putting them in their different buckets as we try to figure out what in the world's going on here. Of course, when this first came out, my gut reaction was to the situation, and what it would lead to is this is a statement that I made: a national security paradigm shift to roll out the normalization of anti-drone technology in everyday life. And what that means is, along with legislation, use in law enforcement, and so on, as we we're fastly becoming more technologically advanced, right? And of course, you guys all see that yourselves. But the advancements of AI and robotics are on turbo boost right now. And I think by the end of this decade, we're going to see a notable change, and especially over the next 4 years, we'll see a notable change in our world and the uses of these technologies in everyday life. I think this is what it's going to lead to. However, I do think at this point we have several different narratives going on. And so my most likely explanation for this right now is it's several situations rolling into a single narrative, and that's the public narrative that I'm talking about. But today we're going to talk about the unpublic narrative, or the unreported narrative, or the one that's kind of getting lost to the noise, right? And it's something that part of it you'll be like, oh, I know that, right? But the other part, you're going to be like, oh, wow, I didn't think of that. And that's why I wanted to do this very special report and bring this information to you. And again, if you want to kind of drill down on this bucket, on these buckets and this root cause analysis board, you can go back to part 1, right? Briefly, what it has is basically a rundown on the situations, how it started, some different videos and takes on that, some different reports, like FBI statements and different things that have come out. It covers some of the narratives that have been springing up, both via government and amateur expert eyewitness reports from this everyday people looking up at the sky for the first time, it seems like, and at night, and seeing things that they can't explain or have never really paid attention to before, and calling them drones. And these drone reports doesn't mean that they're actually drones or being reported as drones, are now at a point of mass hysteria where people are demanding answers, and they're not liking what they hear. The funny thing about this is that as people demand answers from the government, they don't believe what the government tells them. And that's just, I mean, of course, the government's lied to us so much, at least the corrupt establishment that we're dealing with here has lied to us so much. And the corrupt media is, helps them with those mistruths and the controlled narratives that, why would you trust them, right? So we have to do our own work these days. And luckily with the internet and a lot of cool people out there doing good work, we can do that. So there's things like this, intelligence sources, the senator comes out and says it's an Iranian drone mothership off the East Coast, and then we actually deep dive into it right here, and we find out with what's going on with shipping, that you can track these ships from their ports, and we do with satellite technology, and I talk about that in a different episode. However, we find out that those ships aren't anywhere near us, yet some people still carry on with the narrative, which is wild. So you have to ask yourself why these narratives continue when they're obviously been debunked. Kind of like this one, U.S. military drones looking for lost nuclear warhead or dirty bomb material. Not happening. It's not happening. Although the guy that came out and said it had a lot of holes in the story. I did a report on this as well. It's under breaking news in the playlist again. Check it out, where I break all this down and I get a really base take on it over here from Ryan Macbeth, who explains how nuclear radiation works and how looking for it with drones, at least at this small amount that they're talking about here, that there's no missing warhead, and there's the dirty bomb material that you're talking about, or the missing radioactive material that this New Jersey guy mayor, this new small town New Jersey mayor, came out and said that was out there when he just had found out about it, just kind of shoot his mouth off on mainstream media there. Actually, the same day gets fact checked, and we find out that it's not missing at all. That this was material, radioactive material that was in a CAT scan machine that was being shipped, and it was just misplaced. They found the CAT scan machine, and they disposed of the material appropriately. So, I mean, quickly. So, I mean, even while this guy was on doing his report, this had already been taken care of. So, why are government officials and people connected to government coming out with these wild stories? And people are continuing to run with them. So, as they come out, I'm on top of it and debunking it and kind of paying attention to it. The thing about it, this is here, as I'm not here to confirm your bias. I'm here to walk with you to the truth. That's what we do here, because it's more important than the truth than be right. And when you have the truth, you already are right. So why would you want to confirm a bias or latch on to anything? Keep an open mind as we go through this, and we will get down to it. Some of the results we're seeing is government legislation trying to be passed through, right? And people will say, well, they're doing this to try to pass legislation for this and that and that and that and that, right? Well, I like to remind you of one thing that we say here on the channel, and that is the establishment never lets a crisis go to waste, but neither do conspiracy grifters. However, they both produce mind control victims equally. And what that means is that as the mass hysteria has ticked up, right, and legislation they've wanted to have to control the drones and the use of recreational drones, they've used this crisis to try to pass legislation. Say, we need to do this, we need to do that. Now, I've done some reporting on this already. And part one, we talked about this, and there's this Robin technology. I'm going to circle back on that in another episode, but it's really just trying to track drones with bird detection radar. That's what Robin is. So that's what he's talking about here in this thing. Of course, Rand Paul blocked this security bill due to privacy concerns, as he should be, with the corrupt establishment. And, it's like the technology can be used for good or bad, but right now we got a lot of corrupt people there, and we need to kind of keep an eye on our rights. However, you're also going to hear some ideas tonight that may make you wonder about, well, maybe we do need to have a little bit more security in the coming world because of the capabilities that are out there, capabilities in many cases that we've developed, but also our adversaries have developed, and our adversaries have re-engineered off our development. So there's a lot of things that go on in this world that are underneath, that are very veiled, let's put it that way. And we don't always get the full story because our enemies are watching, and that's what we've broken down here. And they're hiding something on the Impact Theory podcast by Tom Bilyeu, where he interviews Andrew Bustamante, right, a former CIA guy. And I'm going to go into who this is in a minute, and we're going to get started on looking at this video here, where he gives a great breakdown about the unreported narrative, one you need to know about. So please make sure that you stick around for this report. After that, we're going to take a look at this drone usage that's going on and how it could be put right here on American soil, or maybe it is. Maybe this is part of the explanation, because as we start to separate the narrative, the unreported narrative from the reported narrative, we're going to find out that these drones are being used already in combat and in many cases for intelligence work globally. So some of these things that we're seeing right now that are going on, that are kind of mixed in with this mass hysteria drone narrative that's happening right now, in terms of just everyday people reporting lights in the sky and calling it a drone, right? Thinking that this is something that, some kind of mass invasion or something the government can't explain. In many cases, I think that some of these people that come out and talk about this stuff, they can't explain it because they're just not. I mean, come on, this dude right here, this guy right here doesn't know anything, and we expect the government to know everything, but in a lot of cases, they don't. They really don't. So they're just people like us that are kind of like, taken in. But it is politically exponentially beneficial to react and respond to what your constituents are concerned about, right? So that's what politicians are doing. So again, there's a lot of mud out there in this whole narrative. And again, I encourage you to listen to part one for a lot more breakdown on this board and some of the topics that are on here, because I can spend a lot of time talking about them. But I want to get in to what the topic is tonight, which is this unreported narrative and this interview here. So in order to do that, what we have to do first is understand who we're listening to. So let me pull this up real quick. This is Andrew Bustamante. Interesting last name. But I've had to check into this guy. I wanted to make sure he was legit. I'm just not paying attention to something that is some kind of guy on a podcast that just claims to be a CIA guy, right? So I looked it up, and here it is. Andrew Bustamante from his LinkedIn. Master's, he's got an MBA. He's a former CIA officer. He teaches spy hacks for business and life. He has a secret clearance. Here is his experience. He is the founder of Everyday Spy, building spy education that breaks barriers for anyone willing to learn. So he's got an educational class there in business he's been running for 7 years. He's also been a senior advisor to CVS Health, spearheading. So he's been a business guy. And also, this is really key right here, intelligence officer for the Central Intelligence Agency, 7 years, 1 month. Prosecuted priority U.S. policy objectives related to counterterrorism, cybersecurity, counterproliferation, and future threats. And you can go read down his entire LinkedIn profile if you want to. But he was also a captain in the United States Air Force for 4 years, right? So there's where he was based. Nuclear and missile operations. Yeah, so he's got a lot of credentials, man. And not only that, he graduated from the Air Force Academy. That's a big deal. So the guy's he's got a brain, and he's got experience, and he has business sense. So you can't really knock him. And I think when you listen to what he has to say, you need to know who you're listening to when you're going to this deep, right? And the information he's going to talk about, and so you can make up your mind for yourself if you feel like you're getting a good story from Andrew here. I found this very interesting, and I wanted you guys to really take a look at this because I think it'll add to your collective your knowledge on this situation, and also kind of expose the fact that there is another narrative going on, right? There is another narrative going on, and that that we have had these drone, and I mentioned this on our last stream. We've had these events over U.S. military bases, not just here in the United States, but worldwide. And they're kind of getting muddied in with these sightings, right? These drones are these objects in the sky that people think are drones. Like, they could be planes, they could be helicopters, whatever. They're not experts, right? And you lose a lot of depth perception and ability to discern. The further up they go and the darker it is and the further away they are, it's just it's a hard task for any human being to try to figure out what the hell is in the sky in a lot of cases. And that's why so many different narratives can pop out of this, and so many different people take advantage of that. Like, for instance, the UFO alien grifters that are out there. I know a lot of people want them to be true, and a lot of times, like I say here, I'm not here to confirm your bias. I'm here to walk with you to the truth. And that's what we do here, because it's better to know the truth. It's more important to know the truth than to be right. And that's our philosophy. So if you enjoy that and you think that that's space, you're going to enjoy what I have to show you this evening. And you'll enjoy the rest of the content on the channel. And I invite you to check it out. And if you're new here, please subscribe and like. It really helps the channel out. I'm trying my best to get these the base takes on what's going on in reality and how we're going to be trying to win reality through win our reality back through a solution culture here on the channel, an idea that I have been putting out for a couple of years now, and I'm still trying to grow here. So if you would, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe and share this out and say, this dude's got a pretty base take on it if you like what I have to say here. So I think you will enjoy this information. So this is I think a fairly short video, but we're going to do a lot of analysis on what he's talking about as we go through it. And let's go ahead and jump on in. Again, the hidden narrative, right, is about these sightings over bases themselves, over U.S. military bases, right? And how, like, when we see things kind of floating around out in, this place and that place and over New Jersey and over New York and over, populated areas, most likely those are just hobbyist drones or their mistaken identity of airplanes and helicopters and things. People are now starting to pay attention because of the awareness, the narrative that's very popular right now. It's trending narrative. And so it's causing more people to think they're seeing stuff, right? That's just a natural occurrence. It happens in a lot of different ways all the time. We know this. But what's getting missed in all this and all the noise that's out there about these drones with big flashing lights that aren't making themselves a secret by any means is the ones that are making themselves a secret and that are going over military bases. Those are the ones that we need to be concerned about. And that's what Andrew is going to talk about tonight, and how that they're kind of the public narrative that's out there is basically running cover for the hidden narrative. So let's get into this without further ado. Let's roll.
So you mentioned drones, and I want to talk about this because I've been disappointed by the coverage in the press about the drones over New Jersey. Remember the drones over the Northeast.
The only reason this wasn't earlier, because I'm glad we're talking about it, the only reason it wasn't earlier is by the time this airs, I hope we know what these are.
We still don't.
So yeah, but say
I
more.
mean, what we know what these are, that's again, it's narrative. That's narrative crossing, right? We think that this is all one big thing. We have to kind of start to look at this like I invite you to do it with me. Look at this like it's not just one big thing, that it's several different things all kind of mushed together, right? Take that approach as you watch tonight and see what you think by the end.
Okay, so when we talk about the drones that are happening right now over the Northeast, or the drones in recent history over the Northeast, there are two things happening simultaneously, but they're not being differentiated in the press. First, there are legitimate reports of drones operating over areas of interest in Germany, in the UK, in military bases on the East and the West Coast, going all the way back to 2019.
Whoa.
All the way back to 2019, reported by the US military, reported and investigated by the FBI. I've been called in to do investigations to support both, to help them try to understand what they're seeing. When the military talks about drones, they're not talking about what the fucking media is showing on TV. A military drone does not have, generally, 4 propellers, a green light and a red light, a front white light, and a top white light that flashes. That's not a military drone.
There you go. That's a great point right there. And that's what I'm saying, that a lot of it, the reports you're seeing, right, they're not talking about military drones, because military drones are not dressed up like normal aircraft or like hobbyist drones. They're not dressed up the same way. Why would you put flashy lights and all that FAA stuff on a military drone when you're going to be using that against enemies, right? And in warfare, why would you announce yourself to your enemy by putting big flashy lights on it? So that right there is the first step in kind of separating the narratives, right? Understanding that military drones are not dressed up like hobbyist drones and normal aircraft we see in the sky.
That's a civilian drone, or that's an airplane, or that's a helicopter. That's all standard FAA lighting configurations. So yes, there is truth to the current reports and the recent reports that say the majority of drone sightings are what we call false positives. right? It looks like a drone. It sounds like a drone because it's coming from somebody who has no fucking idea what a drone looks or sounds like. They're actually seeing a private Cessna at 2,000 feet that sounds like a lawnmower and has all the right lighting configuration, not a drone, right? But the reports that the military has seen over Ramstein, over the UK bases, over Langley Air Force Base in Virginia, the most significant sighting of all happened in 2019,
Right.
was a swarm of between 75 and 150 drones that are military style drones. Think about your Reaper, right? Fixed wing, blacked out, no lights, moving at more than 100 miles an hour in swarm configurations that fly over an area of interest and then fly back, right?
Think about that. Now you don't hear that, right? This is what I'm talking about. This is the unreported narrative. People aren't talking about this in conjunction with the public narrative that's going on right now. The hysterical narrative of drones that's going on, where everybody in the world is seeing them now. They're everywhere. I see them. They're all night long. They're there. Yeah, you probably are seeing planes, helicopters, and hobbyist drones all mixed together and thinking that they're all drones. Again, but what he just said right there, think Reaper style drones, blacked out, flying in formation, swarm formation, who'd swoop in, gather information, and swoop out, right? So check it out.
We're talking about a normal drone has a range of 30 miles, 70 miles, maybe. A commercial drone. A Reaper has ranges in the thousands of miles.
Thousands.
Right? They have drones for the US military that are recharged by sunlight. So you just launch that son of a bitch above the clouds and it can go on for days and it can just loiter.
Wow.
And it can collect infrared, it can collect signals intelligence, it can collect whatever, and then it can fly back.
Think about that. It could be, so they don't know where they come from or where they go. So as you break this down, hobbyist drones are going to go up, but they're going to come down in some neighborhood, in some park, whatever. The guy grabs it, puts it in the car, and leaves. Right? That's not flying out to sea. Right? Not flying out the city. There's not some home base somewhere. It's just somebody with the drone. Right? And then you think about what he just said. Right? Where you have these highly advanced, extremely expensive military drones that could actually fly up into the upper cloud, above the clouds, where you're not going to ever see them, right? And they could recharge and loiter, as he's saying, and then come back down or go back to wherever they want to, thousands of miles away, out of sight. Okay, so that's something to consider as well as you're listening.
What the military has reported going back to November of this year is those drones, blacked out drones, not operated by a manned pilot, operating on code and signals and transmitting a radio signal that's usually reserved for satellite technology, but coming from the space above our heads.
Whoa.
That's what they're talking about. That's what's in Virginia. That's what's in California. That's what's in Maryland. That's what's been reported multiple times over that has never really made headlines because of the way the media works. It's not government controlled, but media just doesn't care about actually interesting things. They care about what's happening with the Kardashians.
Yeah.
So there are real drones that are really suspect, that are really being collected by the military. And then there's Tom, Dick, and Nancy, your dumb voter out there with a fucking camera, who are capturing air traffic and reporting it to the police. And the police don't know what the fuck to do with that. So now you're burying the real intel in all this chaos, right?
Burying the real intel and all the chaos, right? So, and I would say, and getting them mixed together. They're flying them over bases. They are flying them over bases, but then they're all over the place too. And in your mind, and in people's minds, they start to turn it into one thing. So this is why this is the the hidden narrative, the unreported narrative, because it's not clear, right? When people are talking about this, it's not clear, and people are reporting light in the sky. Think about that, light in the sky, not blacked out Reaper drones that are swarming bases and gathering intel and then heading up into the clouds. They're reporting lights that are going dancing across the sky and then they go away, right?
FBI has known And they've been investigating through the increasing UAP research groups that have been funded by DOD and funded by the Congress. They've been researching what these things are because it's scary. It's actually scary. It is a legit foreign intelligence collection platform, very similar to the China spy balloon in 2023. It's a capability that exists. It exists for us too. No, everybody's known we've had that drone capability since the global war on terror, but others are producing the same capability and nobody knows what to do with it. So
yeah, so when others are producing it, right, when others start to produce it, and it starts to get used against us, we have the same issues, right? We're like, well, okay, we got to figure out how to combat this.
there's two things happening. The media only talks about the first. And the more that I see reports from people saying, oh, it's just residents reporting on air traffic, that's not completely incorrect. But they're glazing over the fact that this whole thing started when the UK reported drones that had no lights and transmitted radio signals flying over American military bases in the UK. That's where this started on November 20th.
Yeah, so that's where it gets lost too, right? We're so busy worried about New Jersey that we've forgotten that it really started over in the UK, and our bases over there being swarmed and having signals going out from there. Basically, somebody, right, another foreign government or organization somewhere gathering intelligence on our base. And we're going to ask the questions. Well, who could that be, right? So now we start to ask that question, and we have to ask as well is where else are we seeing it? Are we seeing it anywhere that's out in the open, like maybe in a hot zone, maybe like in Ukraine and Russia? So as we our second part of the show tonight, we'll go into that question, and we'll be taking a look at what's being used over there, how, and so on.
It wasn't December 1st when there was December 5th. There's a manhunt for Luigi Mangione, the guy who shot Brian Thompson from United Healthcare. There's a manhunt happening for him on the Northeast. Guess what it includes? Drones. So the skies above New York and Pennsylvania and Maryland light up with drones at the same time that the police are reporting that they're on a manhunt using drones. I'm not surprised here, folks.
Right.
Of course, you're seeing drones overhead.
Okay, so that went on for a few days, right? And so to make sense of what he just said right there, yeah, so the reports start coming out that people are seeing drones everywhere without considering the fact that there's a manhunt using drones that are on. I don't know to what degree that is or how much, right? Coincidental. I kind of take that part with a little bit of a grain of salt. However, what I'll say is that if there's an uptick there and then people start getting interested in the topic, they start going out with their own drones. Well, I'll go out there and just fly them up and try to figure it out myself. And then other people see that and they say, oh, look, it's a drone. You know, so it starts to compound as time goes on. A little bit of hysteria then amounts to a lot, right? So as people start saying, holy shit, I'm getting activated by this information. I got a drone. I'm going to go out tonight and I'm going to figure it out myself. All right. And let me tell you something. There's all kinds of people going out and trying to investigate these things now. Like I'm finding all these independent people that are me and my buddy. We're driving up to New Jersey to figure out if they're looking for radioactive material or not. And these guys get out there. I'll show you some. They get out there and they go on these, they're not investigators, right? They don't do their research before they leave, but they want to be YouTubers. So they go out there and they go, okay, here we go. We're going to go do it. I'm here to do a special report. I'm going to sleep in my van tonight and look for drones, right? There's a lot of people out there doing that right now. And I'll show you an example of somebody at the end here that went out there and they still think that there's radio material out there, that they're searching for radioactive material. And like I showed you in the ABC report, that's been debunked. It's not happening. So these people that are going out there trying to be drone researchers, drone finders, they're going to take matters in their own hand because the government can't do it. Now they're going out there with their own drones. They're adding to the noise. They're adding to the hysteria. And it's just compounding.
But don't lose the signal in the noise.
So what do you think it is?
I think that there's a foreign intelligence collection happening against the United States that has been happening against the United States, but that is now at risk of coming to light. So that's why you see a unified messaging from the US government that says you don't have to worry because they know they can't do anything about it.
Why
You
can't they
can't-
shoot them down?
What happens if
Hold
you
on. That you don't have to worry. They're not harmless. Don't worry about it. They keep telling you guys. They keep telling us that, right? And everybody's like, no, how do you know? Well, how do you know then? You must know what it is. They don't consider the fact that it's multiple things, right? And he's going to go into later on about why they're not being more forthcoming about the situations at the bases, right? And they're enjoying the noise, right? And they're using the noise to get legislation they want passed that they couldn't get passed before because of privacy concerns, right? A lot of things start to happen. When you start to consider what's going on right here, right now, what he's talking about, when you add this to the entire narrative, right? This unreported narrative to the entire narrative that's going on, it starts to make more sense. Now you got all the different swerves that are coming out, right? Oh, we're looking for radioactive material. Oh, there's a mothership. Oh, it's like when that guy came out and said that there was an Iranian mothership off the East Coast, the first thing I thought of, well, that sounds like the neocon military industrial complex trying to manufacture consent to go to war in Iran, right? It's like that's a perfect line. That's the neocon line you would expect, and this guy is just being fed this information to then become a useful idiot for that narrative. And I think that's the same thing with the searching for nuclear warheads, it keeps changing from missing warheads to dirty bog material. And there's people are getting their sources from the government, and I warn them, be careful that your source isn't using you or isn't being used to produce a noise, to produce a narrative that's not true in order to keep people off the track of what's really going on, right? Or if there's anything really going on, man, whether it's to manufacture consent for legislation or to run cover for the fact that there's an intelligence gathering situation going on by a foreign adversary at our military bases that with a different set of drones and different situation that we can't deal with, but we don't want people to understand that there's foreign adversaries flying overhead, right? And that's what he's going to get to here in a second. But that's what I'm talking about here is like, I think that these narratives that are being pushed out right now, especially by the government, it starts out with nothing to worry about. And that's, for the most part, it's true. I mean, there's no threat, right? And nothing I talked about right now is an immediate threat to anybody yet, right? Yet. So right now there's no threatening activity going on. These little lights in the sky, they're not doing anything yet. I mean, those are just the hobbyist drones, the planes, the mistaken identities. Nothing bad's happening there, right? Nobody's reported anything. Nobody's been attacked by drones. It's like all that. If someone reports it, it usually gets debunked, right? And it's been very minimal, and it's just been sensational. But the other part of it is that even the intelligence gathering isn't a combative assault, right? It's an intelligence gathering operation. So that's not a threat to the people. They're saying it's not a threat to you, right? They're not talking about long-term threats. They're talking about immediate threats. Nothing is an immediate threat. So they start with that narrative. People don't accept it, right? And then they go into, okay, well, maybe we're looking for something. Maybe we're looking for this. Maybe we're looking for some material, right? So you can have Joey Macaroni from New Jersey come out and say, oh yeah, I got it on good information, and they still didn't know they still couldn't give us any details, but I got it on good information that they're looking for this missing radioactive material. Well, they weren't, right? They weren't. And when you go into the technology it takes to actually look for radioactive material via a drone, it has to be a significant amount, right? I've done the research on that as well. You can look it up. It's in part 1, right, where I dropped the link to the research that's out there on the technology used to look for radioactive material from drones. And it has to be a much more significant amount than a CAT scan material, right? But that's what was missing from the FedEx shipment, and that was out there. But still, the mayor in New Jersey is out there spreading this shit, and the senator from New Jersey is out there saying it's Iranians, and we know the Iranian ships are halfway across the world. So why are these people in government, these mouthpieces that come out, why are they being fed this narrative? And why are other journalists being fed narratives by their internal sources, right? Because they want to create, I believe, a cover. So let's let them continue.
shoot down a drone over a populated city like Maryland, like Baltimore?
Yeah, he's asked the question, why don't they just shoot him down? And he's saying, well, what would you think would happen if they shot down a drone over Maryland?
Meaning it'll crash on the city?
So what do you think Americans are going to accept? A lie from the federal government saying they don't have to worry, or 5 people dead because it crashed into an apartment complex, but it gave them a chance to collect the technology that was out there? No, not only that, but when you shoot it down,
it has to go back to wherever it came from. Why not track it?
That's what they're doing.
Boom.
If you shoot,
boom. If you shoot it down, you can't track it. They're gathering intelligence. We're gathering intelligence, right? This is a long-term game. This isn't immediate warfare. I'll show you some immediate warfare later on, and I'll show you what it looks like and what kind of drones are used in immediate warfare, like current warfare. Like you're on the battlefield, right? This isn't the battlefield. This is intelligence gathering, right? This is just one government spying on another, and then we're observing how they do it, right? So that we understand their techniques better, so that we are better at countering those techniques and then executing our own.
The fucker down, you can't track it back. They're collecting information about how they communicate with each other. They're tracking the locations, they're tracking the altitudes, they're tracking the distances. What people don't understand is that all the technology out there, from missile shields to counter UAS technology, it has parameters. You don't just look at everything happening in the sky. You have to tell things what aperture to look at, what altitude to look at, what time of day, what speed. Like you have to give parameters to the tool. So if you tell the tool to look at 5,000 feet, anything moving faster than 100 miles an hour, something could be moving less than 100 miles an hour and not trigger the system. Our adversaries know that, and the fucking adversaries know exactly what our settings are, because that's why they've been committing industrial espionage and corporate espionage and government espionage for the last 30 years against us. So this is their chance to see if we pick them up, if we don't pick them up. And the United States always has the opportunity to just call it a UFO or or UAP.
Okay, so stop right there for a minute, and let's talk about that. So gathering parameters, like why does it have to have parameters? Why can't you just do wide searches? Because then you'll pick up everything. You have a ton of noise. So if anybody has any smart home devices, you know that you can like a smart doorbell, right? A lot of people have smart doorbells now, right, with cameras on them. They're very handy. Now you can scan the yard and give you let you know when something comes up, a package is delivered, an animal is nearby, and you can actually set a range, and you can actually tell it to alert you for this and not alert you for that. So that's kind of the same thing. That's the way I kind of equated that, but there's a much more sophisticated, right? They're doing much more sophisticated work right there. So they have to cut out a lot of noise in order to zone in or hone in on what they actually want to look for, what is actually shouldn't be there, right? So I'm sure that it gets better as time goes on. But what he's talking about is just basically, you can have an area of effect that you can look into, and then you have to kind of like, filter out the noise. So that's one part of this, right? The other part of it is that the intelligence gathering has been going on internally, right? These spies that come into our country, that get jobs in government, that are personal assistants to Democrat senators, have affairs with them, all that stuff. They're getting, what are they doing? What kind of information are they trying to get, right? So we don't really, we're never privy to that. We just hear that they're a spy. And what he's saying is like, these are the kind of things the kind of situations they're trying to get into in order to understand better how to penetrate our defenses, right? And see if we can pick up on it, right? So it's testing and testing for what, right? For what, for when, for what? One is basically to grow their own their own abilities, right? To understand ours. And should the time ever come, if they ever wanted to or needed to do something, they'd have that information handy. And so it's, man, like Yuri Bezmenov told us, like 95% of subversion is gathering information. Like 95% of warfare is gathering information. But that's only the last 5% that goes kinetic. So you could have peacetime warfare going on all times. Would you consider infiltrating another country to steal their secrets part of warfare? It is. It's just not, we think of war as what we're going to see in the second half of the show. We think of war as, people shooting at each other and life and death, explosions and big tanks, always with the big explosion, right? So all that stuff, troops, military. We think of it like that because that's what we were taught in school. But it actually is a lot more to it than just the tail end of it, not just the kinetic part of it. There's a lot more that goes into it. And that's what we talk about. I'm going to rewind this just a second. Just to let him kind of refresh the point.
Up, and the United States always has the opportunity to just call it a UFO or a UAP. Again, I'm not making this shit up. If you just look at the news reporting the week before the China spy balloon, and look at the news reporting for about the next 2 months after the China spy balloon, there were UFOs in the sky until we said, oh, actually, it's a Chinese spy balloon. Then people lost their shit. We blew up the spy balloon. And then guess what? There were 3 more balloons that flew overhead over the next 3 months. What did we call them? UFOs. And we didn't budge from that. They're just UFOs. We don't know what they are, folks. They're just UFOs. And the UFO community was like, oh, there's aliens visiting us. The government was just like, America can't handle if we tell them it's another spy balloon. And then the government shot down.
All right. So right there, that right there is key, I think, in a sense that if you know as a government that you say you don't know what it is, it's a UFO, it's a UAP, right? If you say that, you know, you activate the new age UFO project disclosure grifters, right? You're going to activate them to be like, oh, that's our opening. Let's go. Now we can go sell our books and our fake alien encounter missions, and we can get on TV and we can get exposure. This is our time, because now everybody's gonna be like, well, the government can't explain it. Wonder what it is. And people are gonna be like, man, I love a good sci-fi story. I love a good sci-fi story. I do too. I love conspiratainment. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to imagine some of these things. And where do these guys come up with all this stuff? I mean, I've done an entire series called the Unveiling Reality, the UFO Alien Rabbit Hole, 10 episodes of going through that entire rabbit hole from ancient aliens all the way up to interdimensional secret soldiers, where you're going to end up in the Galactic Federation of Light, like people who make up these wild stories about shit that are out there when it comes to the UFO stuff, because no one's going to counter it. It's all hearsay. It's all take this on faith. There's no proof of any of it, right? And there's just people making stuff up as they go along, and it's conspiratainment. But then some people really buy into it and start to believe it, and that's the dangerous part. That's the abusive part of that rabbit hole. And like I said, part 3 is going to be talking about the latest, the new drone UFO interdimensional narrative, brought to you by King Grifter, Dr. Stephen Greer, who makes shit up like you wouldn't believe. And I'm going to break that whole, a brand new interview with him, David Spade, and Dana Carvey. David Spade and Dana Carvey have a podcast, and they had Dr. Stephen Greer on. So that's going to be the next one. That's going to be part 3. So make sure you guys subscribe, like, ring the bell, and come back for part 3, because that's going to be really good. I love degrifting Stephen Greer stuff. And it really is the anatomy of a psyop, though. It really is the anatomy of a psyop, because he's a master at psyoping people, getting people to believe something that's not real. And that's the psychological operations. There you have it. For those people who throw that word around and don't understand what it means, it is that. Means basically getting people to believe something that something's happening that's not, right? Psychologically operating. And so there you have it. So the government knows that if they just say that they don't know what it is, they're going to activate that whole segment of people to get out there, and then they have that mud that comes out, right? There's a lot of people out there right now, and then on the tail end of that, I'll digress here for a second. On the tail end of those people, then you have the religious people who think it's revelations, and they'll say, no, those are angels, that's revelations. And then they'll start quoting Bible verses, and they'll say, and on the final days, and this is a biblically accurate looking angel. And you see it, you see it, it's out there. They work off each other. So the government does one thing, they said, and nobody trusts what the government says, so they're all waiting for the government to tell them what to think. Then when the government says they do know or they don't know, people will react one way or another, and different groups will activate and start putting their narratives out, right? And pretty soon, if something goes on long enough, you have all this noise and all this mud that's out there, try to sift through to get to the truth. And that's why you got to take your time, not jump the shark, walk stuff in, collect information, listen to many different voices, many different takes, understand where they're coming from, what their history is, all that stuff. That's the information I provide here on this channel. Unveiling Reality, this series, my playlist, and the playlist associated with this program right here, and others that I do, but particularly this one, is about unveiling reality, right? It's about unveiling the veiled realities that are put out there, the false narratives, the grifts, and also the abuse, the cycle of abuse that leads to the cycle of control, which the global ownership class are master at. That's why they keep continually rolling over us, and have their own agenda, right? So it's all right here. I cover all these topics from MK Ultras to Project Blue Memes to UFO alien rabbit holes. I debunk it all. I talk about the history of it. I give you the base take on it so that you can actually have that information, because you're not going to get a lot of other places. A lot of other places, people just want to further a narrative, further a bias, and it's kind of either they don't know they're doing it, or they're doing it intentionally to gain from you. That's not what I do here. I'm trying to get us all to a point of clarity, honesty, and a more truthful reality, a winning reality, if you will, from people who are trying to abuse us with information, false information, try to box people into narratives, control people's minds to those false narratives and those boxed in narratives. That's what I do here. Just a quick little sidetrack there. Let's get back to this.
Down science balloons from what was it? The University of Auburn and somebody else. They were shooting down science balloons because the technology that we had couldn't identify the payload on the balloon. The government is not as well equipped as we all think it is. It's not Mission Impossible. It's not James Bond. It's always adapting to what the adversary is throwing at us, and the adversary is always adapting to what we're not looking for.
Right.
Boom. Yeah, it is a dance. I mean, yeah. And Hollywood movies, and people talk about predictive programming, right? But usually the problem is that entertainment and imagination is way ahead of reality a lot of times, right? That's why the Jetsons were way ahead of where we're not even to the Jetsons yet. But yeah, you can imagine, Star Wars and Star Trek and all this stuff. It's not predictive programming. It's just that our imaginations are way ahead of what we can do. Right, we're dealing with a lot of different situations and conditions here on this planet as human beings, and then trying to work together through that with this thing called free will, and in different conditions people are under, different. It's just this is life's complicated. Life's complicated, and so we're not to the point. We're getting there, but we're not to the point where the Jetsons are, stuff like that. But we imagined it a long time ago, and we've all dreamed of living in the Star Trek age or the Jetsons age or whatever. We've all dreamed of it, and then it gets here, and then we're all scared of it. But yeah, so yeah, it's not with the big boom, the big explosion, James Bond stuff. When you come down to it, and Yuri in the 80s explained this too. Yuri Bezmenov explained it. It's like Americans think that it's all the big, big spy movie stuff. It's not. It's not very romantic at all, right? It's just gathering information and putting it together and keeping it so that you have it, and then you try to make sense out of it, and then your enemy moves and you counter, and then you move and your enemy counters. That's just the dance that you do.
So swarms of UFOs, of UAPs, of UASs, whatever they want to call them now, swarms of drones flying on the outskirts of American airspace, making incursions and excursions, collecting what they can from signals intelligence, imagery analysis, infrared technology, collecting everything they can, autonomously flown using only why would they use satellite radio signals? Because guess what they're communicating with? Satellites to get back to their home station, because you don't even need ground-based relays if you have something flying high enough at altitude.
Boom.
We've known this in military circles. We've known this in intelligence circles. We've known this in open source circles for a long time. It's just never made mainstream news.
Right. And we don't know where they go or how they do it. We can't track their signals. They're not putting out signals. Oh my God. Because I'm looking for the other kind of signals. And these are people on the ground, right? Military, like he's saying, they know that, but they're not. Why won't they tell us, right? So that's the next thing we're going to find out. Why not just tell us? We need government transparency.
Now that it has started to make mainstream news, your dumb voter has intervened and has buried the story, which is very convenient to what the government needs to be able to get out of this.
Boom. This is, I'm saying this, the unreported narrative is I almost call this the hidden narrative, and who knows, by the time I publish this, I may call it the hidden narrative. I may change the title, but that's really what it is, right? Because like you said, what they need to get out of it is a bunch of noise. And when you know that you can produce a bunch of noise by, one, putting out false reports, two, telling dumb politicians what to say, three, telling inside sources to mislead mislead journalists, four, leave a mystery on the table and let the public fill in the rest, right? Like AI does with the extra fingers and the extra hands, right? Through experience that when you do that, and believe me, the UFO rabbit hole, they've been doing this forever. They're like, let your imaginations run wild. And meanwhile, we're building a stealth bomber. Meanwhile, we're flying a YouTube spy plane. Meanwhile, this is happening. But you guys are looking over there looking for ET to phone home. Meanwhile, we're doing our military things over here. This is the same thing that's been going on forever. So here we go again. And like he's saying, even very well, I believe, that the noise is always what's covering up what's really going on. But you need not look too hard to find out and figure out what's really going on because of the noise. The noise can point you back to what they're really trying to cover up, right? What they're really doing. And is it really that exciting? Or really that treacherous, man? We're safe. We've had one major attack on our country in its history. The recent history, modern history, and that was like on 9/11, right? So, and that was an inside, very small cell group kind of thing, right? It wasn't some kind of massive invasion. Now, massive invasions are troublesome, but it's because we do this intelligence work, and because there are people that are vigilant about this, that we don't, as everyday people, experience this. So when we start to see some kind of thing going on, right, and we don't trust government, and we shouldn't, and then the sensationalism and the hysteria starts, right? We think that, oh, we're really pushing back on this government. They're going to feel it now, right? And meanwhile, they're loving it, because on one side of the coin, you got Chuck Schumer and the Democrat authoritarians and the military industrial complex and everybody else using that crisis that they won't let go to waste to pass legislation, to gain more power, to funnel more money to companies they want to have the money, like supporter companies, whatever, roll out better security state technologies, sometimes for good reasons, sometimes for bad privacy intrusions, right? You have all that. Then you have, on the other hand, you have the military industrial complex and neocons going, oh yeah, it's Iran, let's all go to war over there. We need more money for military. We need more money for this. So, they're benefiting off of that noise too, right? Meanwhile, what's really going on is getting kind of covered up and forgotten about.
Wow, that is very shocking that we would rather it be aliens than foreign intelligence.
Why is that
drones.
shocking? Why is that shocking, though? Think about it. If you know that it's a foreign adversary over your head, that scares the shit out of you. When you believe it's an alien overhead, you're mixed. Could be hopeful, could be bad, could be neutral. We want to feel safe.
Enter Stephen Greer.
That's retarded. That's actually retarded. I'm very angry right now.
If you guys don't know who Bill is, Tom Bilyeu, he's a billionaire, believe it or not. He's a nerd billionaire who, sorry, I might have tapped that. You might have heard that. He's a nerd billionaire who co-founded Quest Nutrition, and then they sold it. And it's the leading manufacturer of plant-based protein powders and bars, and then sold Quest Nutrition to PepsiCo in 2019 for $1 billion. And he's also the co-founder of Impact Theory, which we're watching right now, a company that produces documentary series, podcasts, and educational content. Bilyeu is known for his experience in entrepreneurship, health, and wellness, and has been featured in various media outlets, including Entrepreneur Magazine and the New York Times. So that's who this guy is right here, Bill. So very funny response there.
Really does make me feel like we're not doing the right thing if we're not addressing it. I do default to keep the public informed. I know, though, that that's naive at scale, and so I want to acknowledge that. But what is the play here?
I think the play is wise. Unfortunately, and I don't have many
Meaning keep lying to the
keep
public?
lying to the public.
Wow.
And I mean, hate me if you want to hate me, but the truth is, when you keep the secrets, you have the power. You can always release a secret, but you can't ever put it back in its box. So if you have secrets, keep them. It's why business owners know this instinctively. You don't tell your competition your secret sauce. There's no benefit to you in doing that. The federal government knows there's no benefit in telling the people, the public, what they're actually seeing in the sky. There's a benefit in telling them what the public is seeing in the sky, but there's no benefit in telling them what they, the military and the government, are actually seeing in the sky.
So there you go. So what's the narrative that the government and the media, the government gives the media, or the government via the media is putting out? Nothing to worry about here. A lot of reports are false. These are all true things, right? And a lot of hobbyist drones. And then you see reports on arrests of people that are flying hobbyist drones near military bases, right? But that's not a swarm of drones. That's not a swarm of unlit drones that are worldwide, right? That's not highly technologically advanced stuff. Your average hobbyist drone can't do anything but record video, and video is very important. They got satellites to do that. The drones that they're bringing in is, can they break through and break out without being detected? What other kind of intelligence can they gather? Signals, communications, things like that. Things a hobbyist drone cannot do. Right. So concerned about the red and green lights spinning in the sky, that Frank over there and whoever else who owns the drones doing, probably to look for drones themselves that people see from a distance. Oh my God, look at them. Oh my God, look, I got a drone too. Let's make them go next to each other. You don't know what's going on where at what point. It's always point of view that people are going to give you in their videos that's out there, right? That's the public narrative. And so the government's saying, yeah, we don't know what they are, because they're like everybody else. They're seeing them from a distance, right? And when they got a threat, they're going to spend how much taxpayer money, right, on police assets to go chase down hobbyist drones. Now we're going to get to a point where that actually is going to be kind of relative, right? On these reports, though, right now that we don't know what they are, UFOs, UAPs, stuff like that. We're wasting a lot of resources trying to figure out that it's just people testing out their Christmas drones early, or that it's just people misreporting. There's a lot of man hours being spent. Think about the cops that are having to look into this stuff instead of arrest murderers, the immigrant crime that's going on. I mean, our resources are being taxed by this narrative in a lot of ways. But in the second half of the show, which is come up here very shortly, I'm going to talk about the future and how what we're seeing today could be a step into that. And if we really can't protect ourselves from foreign adversary drones swooping in, swooping out, what real drones and real combat can actually do now, and the other technologies that could be deployed via those type of drones. Much scarier.
That is worth further research, because when you acknowledge a secret, yes, you tell the public, which you may have a responsibility for, but you also tell the adversary.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're trying to protect the public, you can't tell the adversary. So until we have some kind of technology that lets us inform American citizens, but not inform everybody else, we have to keep the secret.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you a question. You're watching right now and be like, nah, it's bullshit. Or maybe some people are like, yeah, it makes sense. How would you do it? How could you handle it? How could you handle the fact that you live in a world with dangerous people in it, dangerous governments in it that are completely authoritarian, where people have no rights, where they have full control like you wouldn't believe as Americans, right? And how would you handle this situation? That's the kind of questions that I ask when I'm looking at this. I'm like, I keep an open mind, right? I don't know. I want transparency. I want to live in an honest world. I want to know the truth, right? Is there sometimes, tell me in the comments, is there sometimes where it's better not to know the truth? there's sometimes where it's in everybody's best interest that the truth not be as public as we wish it was. Not in all these other corruption cases. Don't just put those aside. I'm talking about when it comes to national security. I'm talking about when it comes to us versus them. Not the people versus the government, but America versus our enemies, right? And I want you to think about that, right? And you may put a comment in now, and if you do, I'll respond to you. I promise you that. But then you may actually come back and change that comment later or add to that comment when you see the next part of the show. So stick around. So I want to show you what it looks like when you live in a world where drones are used for combat on your own soil.
Yeah. Okay. I get that. I need to think through it more to have an official opinion. But when we're seeing them sort of nakedly out in the open, God, continually lying to the public. Anyway, I'm going to plant a flag in that as something I need to contend with in my own mind.
See, I think it's a good flag.
It's wild to think about it, right? You got to think about it.
Flag to plant. I think we should all be flagging ourselves to say, are we comfortable being lied to? I am comfortable being lied to. My time in the government, my time at CIA made me very, very comfortable with being racially profiled. It made me very comfortable with not having the levels of privacy that we're all told we have. It made me very comfortable with the government keeping secrets from me because I can see the benefit for me in all three of these areas. That isn't just blind ignorance. Like racially profile me. Absolutely. I'm a brown guy with black hair. I got a shady ass looking. You don't know whether I'm fucking Palestinian or Israeli or Sunni or Shia or Indian. You don't know what I am. So pull my ass over. Let me show you my driver's license because I'm fucking American. It's going to be a 5-minute inconvenience to me, and then I'm done. And especially if it's like a local cop, if I live in a place where there's only 12 or 15 cops that police me anyways, they all know who I am. And then they stop suspecting me of being whatever the fuck they think I am because they know what I am. I have zero problem with me being racially profiled. I understand if other people don't like it. You want to listen to my phone calls? You want to read my emails? Go right ahead. Because you know what I'm not doing? Cheating on my taxes, cheating on my wife, or stealing from my own company. Not doing it. So you're going to waste your time, but you're also going to confirm that I'm not the suspect you're looking for. Somewhere out there, there are bad people doing bad things, disguising themselves as good people doing good things. You're never going to find them unless you have a chance to rule me out. So I'm completely okay with that. And now that I've been part of CIA and I've seen the secrets that we have to keep, not just from ourselves, but also from other intelligence agencies, when there's a spy at NSA, you can't tell NSA who you suspect their spy to be. You have to tell FBI. So FBI can look into it. Because if you tell NSA, it might leak back to that person. There's always a reason to keep a secret. And I benefit when the government keeps the right secrets. When the government's keeping secrets because they're inefficient or corrupt or whatever, incompetent, that's a whole different story. But I still understand the value of secrets.
If you like this conversation,
Amazing.
check out this episode to learn more.
All right. There you have it. So what do you guys think? Huh? I thought that was very interesting, and he makes a lot of good points. And yeah, we may have our differences on some things, right? I mean, I get it. People don't want to be lied to. They don't want to be spied on. This is a big world that we live in a very comfortable situation, but a very safe situation. And it's interesting when you start really looking at the world a different way, how some of this stuff that seems very right defeating, you know, we can never have our rights taken away from us. We always have to fight to keep our rights, right? But we also have to understand that the whole world isn't America. So if you, unless you want to just take over the entire world, make it all America, until everybody has a constitutional republic and a constitution with a Bill of Rights, right? And it, we're in this situation. So either, and then what happens if we do? We become the tyrants, right? Then the whole idea of our constitutional republic and our Bill of Rights, we force it on people, then we're the tyrants, right? We can't do that. And there's always going to be counterparts. There's always going to be balance. There's always going to be evil forces that work against good. That's the nature of this 3D world we live in. So interesting stuff. Maybe a little. It's always about balancing more good than bad, more transparency than not, more truth than veiled facts about the world, veiled things that are going on. We just want more of it, right? We keep a healthy surplus, right? Then we minimize all the bad out there. And maybe through that exponentially, there'll be so much good and so much transparency and so much freedom that we don't even notice the evil and those kind of the deceit and the things of that nature that we're keeping at bay, right? I don't know how it all works. I'm just a person here like you trying to figure it out. That's what we do here on this channel. If you dig it, please make sure you hit subscribe, like, ring the bell, because they'll shadow ban me. You won't get to know when I go live. I go 5 base streams a week. And I hope you will come and enjoy many of them with me and get to know me and my awesome crowd. And I hope you're having a great holiday. Okay, so now let's move on to the second part of the show here tonight. Keeping everything you said in mind, right? That's why I played that one first, right? I want to bring this to your attention before I get started, because the video I'm about to play for you, I will tell you up front, comes from a channel called The Military Show, which I should subscribe to, and I just did. And it is a little biased towards Ukraine. That's all I can say. I mean, the information we're watching is true, and that's why we're watching it. We're watching it for the technical aspect of it. But whoever made it clearly leans towards Ukraine. So to balance that out, I want to start off by showing you this. This just came out the other day from the AP, and you might have noticed it on the board earlier. But now we're going to take a look at it firsthand here. All right. Ukraine drones strike Russia as Kiev reels from consecutive massive air attacks. Right. And there's a picture of a very gnarly looking spot there. In this photo provided by Ukrainian's 24th Mechanized Brigade press service, servicemen of the 24th Mechanized Brigade fire a 2S1 self-propelled 122 millimeter howitzer towards Russian positions near Chabezyar town. Sorry, I said that wrong. And Donetsk region in Ukraine. I probably said that wrong too. This is on December 12th, right here. That's just an old picture, but right here, we're going to get that out of there. We're going to read Kiev, Ukraine, AP. Ukrainian drone strike on the southern Russia killed a 9-year-old boy and set fire to a major oil terminal, officials said Saturday, the day after Moscow launched a massive aerial attack on its neighbors that Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky said was one of the heaviest bombardments of the country's energy sector in nearly 3 years. The boy died when the drone struck his family's home outside Belgorod. I probably said that wrong too. Belgorod, a Russian city near the border with Ukraine. A local governor, Gladskov reported, I said that wrong too, on Saturday morning on the Telegram messaging app, his mother and 7-month-old sister were hospitalized with injuries. He posted a photo of what he said was the aftermath of the attack, showing a low-rise house with a gaping hole in its roof and the front wall flanked by mounds of rubble. This is drone warfare, everybody. Elsewhere in southern Russia, Ukraine drones overnight hit a major oil terminal in Oryol in the Oryol region, sparking a blaze. Ukraine's general staff reported. Photos published by the general staff on a Russian Telegram news channel showed a huge plumes of smoke engulfing the facility, backlit by an orange glow. There we go. I guess there's some pictures right there. So yeah, I don't know. Take a look at what it is. Whoop. Okay, thank you for that. I'll donate later. And thank you for not flashing my name on screen. Okay, let's see. Russia's defense ministry on Saturday claims its forces shot down 37 Ukraine drones over the country's south and west that previous night. Keep that in mind. All right. The Ukrainian strike came a day after Russia fired 93 cruise and ballistic missiles and almost 200 drones at its neighbor. 200 drones at its neighbor. Further battling Ukraine's energy infrastructure, around half of which has been destroyed during the war. Rolling electrical blackouts are common and widespread, and Zelensky charged Friday that Moscow is terrorizing millions of people with such assaults. And it seems like you guys are both terrorizing each other. But according to Ukraine's Air Force, Russia kept its drone attacks on Saturday, launching 132 across Ukraine territories. 58 drones were shot down, and a further 72 veered off course. 72 veered off course. Likely due to electronic jamming, it said. Oh, look, I'm reading this, and you guys can barely see it. I gotta remember to look back. There we go. I hope that helps. Sorry. And my beautiful reading. All right. So there we go. I'm not starting over. The Russian Defense Ministry said its forces used long-range precision missiles and drones on critical important fuel and energy facilities in Ukraine that ensured the functioning of the military-industrial complex. Wow, how about that? Interesting use of words. The strike was in retaliation for Wednesday's Ukrainian attack on using U.S. supplied the Army Tactical Missile System, or ATACMs, on a Russian airbase, it said. Kiev's Western allies have produced Ukraine with an air defense system to help it protect critical infrastructure. But Russia has sought to overwhelm the air defense with combined strikes involving large numbers of missiles and drones called swarms. Russia has held the initiative this year as its military has steadily rammed through Ukrainian defenses in the east in a series of slow but steady offensives. Okay, defenses and offensives. But uncertainty surrounds how the war might unfold next year. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, who takes office next month, has vowed to end the war and has thrown into doubt whether vital U.S. military support for Kiev will continue. All right. And there you go. So that's the drone part of it, right? That's drones. December 14th, 2024. That was just last week right there. Okay. So I'm glad you guys will keep that in mind as we go into our next part. Okay, let's get into it. Here we go. This comes from a channel called The Military Show. It starts off with a little introduction here, and then it gets into the big show, the drones being used in warfare right now. And the reason why we want to take a look at this is not only to take a look at the future, but also what could be, right? But also to understand if there's something going on. Wouldn't an enemy be using their very best, right? What is their very best? And so in a conflict, they're going to bring out their very best because that's what they save it for. They're not going to keep their best drones and best technology and best warfare methodologies tucked away when they're actually in the real heat of the battle, if you will. So let's take a look at this introduction here, and we will comment throughout.
Sing buzz gets closer. Baba Yaga. It's
we
the
go.
dead of night. You're crouched in the trenches when you hear it. That low, menacing buzz gets closer. Baba Yaga. Someone
Baba
whispers
Yaga.
under their breath, dread spreading like wildfire. You look up and something drops, but it isn't a bomb. A metallic object hits the ground with a clatter, and a pair of cold, mechanical
Real quick, you can see there's no light on that, right?
eyes lock onto you. It's a robot dog. The drone vanishes, but the dog is there to hunt. No,
Ooh.
this isn't a scene pulled straight out of a dystopian horror film.
Did anybody ever see a Black Mirror episode called Metalhead? That's exactly what that episode's about. It's done in black and white. It's like a horror depiction of it. I'll probably show that one on Old School Watch Party Sundays coming up as our as a movie or feature, or maybe we'll do some episodes of Black Mirror or something. I don't know. I like Black Mirror as a show because it does take your mind to very interesting places as far as technology goes. But yeah, these guys are straight out of that. Only these are just for surveillance, so these aren't like psychopath killers yet.
This is the new phase of warfare, the very real scenario many Russian soldiers will face, or already do, as the Ukrainian forces get increasingly creative with their use of autonomous weapons in the Russo-Ukrainian war. But how did a vampire and a robot dog transition from a punchline to a really bizarre joke to a reality in modern warfare?
And just keep in mind, both sides are using a tremendous amount of drones.
Watching to uncover the surprising connection between these two elements and how this peculiar pairing is transforming the battlefield in unexpected ways.
This is the future, guys. This is the one, like, I mean, we were growing up watching this stuff in movies and stuff. Here it is, right? This is the beginning stages.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Given that the Ukrainian vampire drones and robot dogs are a culmination of the use of autonomous systems in the Russo-Ukrainian war, we must first explore the broader context of these technologies.
Look at that little guy. They don't even talk about this little dude. But imagine a swarm of these things coming at you.
And their strategic implications. You see, since the very beginning of the invasion in 2022, Ukraine has been seeking to minimize the risks to humans on the battlefield while maximizing operational effectiveness. This approach stands in stark contrast to its Russian adversaries, who've shown nothing but a willingness to expend lives.
Even in this picture right here, if you had looked up at the top, right over there, there is a drone flying over them. I think it's just filming the
pursuit of territorial gains.
Yet,
the 667,630 Russian troops lost between February 24th, 2022 and October 10th, 2024 speaks volumes about this meat grinder military strategy that sees soldiers as mere cannon fodder. Ukraine seeing its forces as valuable assets. And
now that's what, like I said, this is a very one-sided report here. These people, the people who do this channel made this video are very pro Ukraine, so you're going to hear a lot of derogatory speech. It's not a very non-biased approach, but it does give you an insight into technology.
And above all, humans has prioritized innovative tactics and technologies for any scenarios where human lives might be at stake. This involves navigating areas littered with landmines, conducting reconnaissance in an enemy-controlled territory, and attempting to breach fortified positions that contain enemy troops. The solution for all these dangerous scenarios? Autonomous systems. By leveraging advanced technologies like drones and robot vehicles, Ukraine is not only enhancing its operational capabilities, but also protecting its soldiers from unnecessary risks. However, autonomous systems aren't only about combat and surveillance. They also play a crucial role in logistics and support, streamlining supply chains and ensuring that troops receive the necessary resources without exposing them to danger. With these in mind, let's explore the most common autonomous systems used in the war in Ukraine, leading up to the puzzling vampire drones and robot dogs. Given that the war in Ukraine has been widely referred to as a drone war, there's really only one place to start: the drones. The term drone war isn't just a catchy label. It stems from the unprecedented scale of unmanned aerial vehicle, UAV, deployment, which has made the Russo-Ukrainian war synonymous with drones. According to US officials,
I mean, we're talking hundreds a day. I mean, we saw just in that article before this video how many drones were like just launched in a day. It's overwhelming. I mean, and we're not seeing a lot of real like footage yet of this warfare, but it must be staggering to look at.
Ukrainian forces are losing approximately 10,000 drones each month.
10,000 a month.
10,000. The number of losses alone should tell you.
How many years has been going on? I think, suddenly it's like, okay, and now I can see why they're asking for so much money, right? All the time. We need more. We need more. We need more. They never tell you what it's for. Of course, we know that a lot of that money is laundered. People come out and say it's laundered different, but you got to imagine these things aren't highly expensive, but you got the artillery, you got the supplies, you got explosives, and then you got the tech, right? So it does add up. Now, warfare has become very expensive.
All you need to know about the relentless pace of this aerial battle. Drones have become integral to tracking enemy forces, guiding artillery, and executing strikes, thus marking a historic shift in military tactics and technology. Though many experts have attributed this shift to the war in Ukraine specifically, it's important to note that UAVs have also seen extensive use in other global conflicts, demonstrating their growing relevance on the modern battlefield. They were used in Vietnam, Kosovo, and Iraq, as well as in the recent Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict over Nagorno-Karabakh.
Wow. So yeah, this has been going on a while. There's the Tomcat. Check that guy out with a shark face on it. That's a throwback right there. We remember these guys. We have two words for you: predator drone. That's what Obama said about what's going on right here, right? Yeah.
However, the concept of unmanned aerial weapons in military applications can be traced even further back, from Chinese fire kites in ancient times to balloon bombs during the Austrian siege of Venice in 1849. The idea of using unmanned aerial technology to gain a strategic advantage
Fire
has a long
kites.
and
Ouch.
fascinating history. However, the scale of drone utilization in Ukraine is unlike anything we've witnessed before. This begs a simple question: why? Why are drones so extensively used in Ukraine? The answer is simple: they're the most practical and cost-effective solution.
Yeah, well, it's also modern. It's easier to use them. They're obviously getting a deal on it, and hey, we're paying for it all. So yeah, why not?
You see, conventional warplanes are far less effective in Ukraine due to the saturation of anti-aircraft systems near the front lines. In contrast, these unmanned vehicles, which cost a mere $500 or even less, can be
Look at
deployed
that.
in overwhelming numbers without
See,
significantly
$500
straining military
less.
budgets and worrying about pilot safety. Also, the very nature of the conflict in Ukraine makes drones an ideal solution.
Not to mention that the training, like, to learn how to fly a jet, that takes some talent and some time and some brain power. But to fly a remote control drone, and just kind of, it's like video game skills.
Situation on the battlefield is best summed up in 3 words: chaotic, dynamic, and highly contested. That's why the Ukrainian forces need a solution that can adapt quickly. And that's precisely what drones do. They can be launched, retasked, and retrieved in a matter of minutes, allowing for a rapid response to shifting frontline scenarios. Due to their audacious roles, these drones are often viewed as expendable. That's why many of the drones used by Ukrainian forces today are often adapted from commercial technology. These less expensive, smaller, and more agile drones include the first-person view, FPV drones, which have gained notoriety for their effectiveness, especially in relation to their price tag. Originally designed for racing or recreational use, FPV drones are now being retrofitted with explosives for precision strikes, carrying out
Yeah.
single-use attacks with remarkable accuracy while evading detection by Russian air defenses.
Yeah, and which we saw in that, again, the AP article from earlier. Ukrainian drones strike Russia. That drone that flew into that building, right? It just flew right into it. I have some footage of something like that, or I think that maybe the exact one or one that's like it. We'll look at after this video.
However, there are also some tech heavyweights in drone technology employed by both sides. Take the Turkish Bayraktar TB2 drones as an example. These UAVs
Okay, again, you're not going to find flashing red and green lights on these things, but that would be, when someone says, if you see a car-sized drone, you're looking at something like this, right? This is a car-sized drone. Now, take a listen to how much this costs.
are widely believed to be among the best drones in the world. They can fly at altitudes of up to 22,000 feet, operate for over 20 hours, and carry up to 320 pounds of payload.
Whoa, hear that? Those are the ones that would, like Andrew was talking about earlier. Those would be way up there, long distance, could carry payloads, or as you see on the front here, let me make sure my cursor's on there. You see on the front here, could just pick up intelligence. Like it could do, well, you got satellites to do that, but this could get a closer view of things. Maybe even be equipped to pick up radio signals or any kind of communications that wants to interfere with. It could jam, and it can drop. So these are the ones that you want to be able to deal with at high altitudes. You want to be able to detect. These things are super, super worrisome. But these aren't the ones that are being reported in the mainstream media narrative and the online narrative that's happening right now.
Since the beginning of the invasion, Ukraine has
This is
received
I think this is the ones that people think they're reporting, right? But you can see there's no lighting on here. They're not going to put lighting on something like this. It's a
over 50
warplane.
of these high-tech UAVs,
50.
including over 50 drones from Turkey delivered from March 2022 onward, one from Lithuania in July 2022, and one from Poland in late 2022. However, as precious as these drones are in combat, they also cost about $5 million apiece, which is
Ouch. Hold on. Ouch. $5 million a piece. So yeah, not your local Yahoo's gonna have one of these flying around, and there's a price tag on it. There's a manufacturer for it, so there's a money trail, right? and you will be able to track back who exactly owns these at some level. You know, right there they just said 50 from this place, 50 from this place. Turkey, Poland, other places have one or two of these, right? But these are precious commodities, and I don't think they would put a lot of risk in trying to get these things shot down for $5 million a piece. We can afford it all day long, but a lot of other places can't.
Which is why Ukraine turned to more affordable alternatives. But even though these FPV drones might be less sophisticated, their operation still requires coordination and precision. The Ukrainian soldiers usually employ a remote controller to operate the drone while wearing a headset to view the drone's camera feed. Another operator may use a tablet to provide situational awareness. Once the target is spotted, operators focus on its most vulnerable points, such as an open hatch or engine compartment on a tank, before directing the drone for a strike. Besides armored vehicles, the Ukrainian forces have used FPV drones to target supply depots and command posts, capitalizing on their ability to dive directly into vulnerable points. Of course, direct strikes represent only one of the common uses of FPV drones. These devices have also been used for surveillance and reconnaissance. This is made possible by the photo and video sensors these drones are equipped with, enabling them to conduct real-time intelligence gathering. That's why they're often used to locate enemy bases and observe troop movements, providing critical intelligence that informs further tactical decisions. FPV drones have also been used to direct artillery strikes in the war. This also goes back to the real-time video feed, which enables artillery units to adjust their fire with precision, ensuring maximum effectiveness against enemy positions. This capability was particularly crucial during the early stages of the war, where coordinating artillery strikes helped Ukraine repel advances by Russian forces. Of course, we can't forget about another crucial role of drones in the Russo-Ukrainian conflict: propaganda and documentation. Given the sheer scale of war crimes committed by the Russian forces,
Okay, again, very biased because we just witnessed Ukraine doing the exact same thing he's going to accuse Russia of. I'm just trying to keep this, like, you know, unbiased and just take a look at the technology, but they do throw in some jabs here at Russia quite a bit. So um, it is what it is. No one wins in a war. Both of these sides, there's no good guys in this war, in my opinion, and it needs to stop. And we can see that this is actually being a great beta test conflict for a lot of new modern technology. And as you start to think about it, as we move along here, think about how people right now somewhere are trying to formulate countermeasures to this what you're seeing in front of you, right? So you have these drones that are highly effective. We haven't even gotten to the vampire drones and the robot dogs yet, right? That's coming up, but very shortly. But and then I think it's like half this video, so it's going to come in here. They're going to tell you how they're using them and what they're going to do with them and all that stuff. However, think about this. If they know drones are coming in, they can do all this stuff, they're going to have to find a way to counter this, right? They can't just be dominated by this technology. Otherwise, all resources go into it. It becomes the thing, and then people are dominated by it. So there will become ways to counter these. People will get creative, you know, with spider drones, maybe. I mean, I don't know, but this is the escalation of robot war right here.
The Ukrainian military and humanitarian organizations needed a way to document and verify these atrocities in real time. Leveraging drones to capture high-resolution footage of the devastation caused by Russian attacks helped them do just that. So the FPV drones have helped Ukraine document horrifying scenes, such as the bombing of civilian areas, the destruction of infrastructure, and the aftermath of missile strikes on Ukrainian cities. The footage captured is often
but it also could show things that they've done and then say Russians did it. I mean, there's all kinds of uses for propaganda. I'm really trying to keep this this non-biased, but you know, we're looking at what we're looking at
for propaganda purposes, contrasting the destruction sowed by the Russian forces with the resilience displayed by their Ukrainian counterparts. This not only boosts morale at home, but also aids in garnering much-needed international support. The many uses of UAVs can be directly tied to many models of FPV drones in Ukraine. From drones that can fit in the palm of your hand to larger models weighing over 1,000 pounds, Ukraine has built or acquired a diverse fleet of remotely piloted aircraft that can severely complicate and frustrate Russia's advances. However, few drones used by Ukrainian forces seem to frustrate their Russian foes as much as the vampire drones. For Russians, the vampires are more than just drones. They're the unseen terror of the night, the part of the day when the battlefield in Ukraine changes. In the day, Ukraine's FPV drones swarm the skies, but by nightfall, the vampires come out to hunt. The Russians are so terrified of these drones, they've nicknamed them Baba Yaga. Baba Yaga is a Slavic witch from folklore, something like the American boogeyman, but darker, more elusive. She's the monster mothers tell their children about to keep them from wandering into the woods. As for Russian soldiers, Baba Yaga has become more than just a story. The vampire drones, as terrifying as any myth, are behind
Right.
this. And the fear of them is real. Russian soldiers speak of them in hushed tones, with intercepted radio communications revealing a chilling desperation. The Russian commanders have even placed bounties on these drones, $500 or a week-long vacation for anyone who can take one down. But they rarely do.
Really
And that's
that
not
hard to
because
take
these
down?
drones have claws and the ability to abduct soldiers, as the Chechen troops of the Russian armed forces have claimed. It's due to their impressive capabilities. With this in mind, let's finally meet these fabled vampire drones. The vampire drones are 6-rotor hexacopters.
As we go along here too, I'm going to give you some of my just off the cusp, like countermeasures that I think of in my mind as I see these things. For one, if these things are flying at night and they're hard to see, but you can hear them and you know they're hunting down, you can set something up where maybe they would run to. And then what you want to do is, like, you want to paint is going to be key here. Like, if you can get some glow paint on these guys, so you can get some maybe even radioactive, kind of like barely radioactive paint, that's something that puts a trace on it. Tracers are going to be key. So if they can be covert, you're going to want to put a trace on that somehow. You could spray tracing, like a tracing agent, like just like kind of like flak, right? That they use for aircraft, anti-aircraft flak. Instead of that's a good idea too. I mean, possibly, but I mean, it gets really dirty, right? But if you can put anti-aircraft kind of like chemical flak, like a tracer kind of like glow kind of on these guys, and spray even a little bit on one of these drones, then you can get a target on it and take it down. Just saying that, people are trying to come up with ways to combat this, obviously, if this is being this effective.
Specifically designed for heavy payloads and night operations. Equipped with advanced thermal imaging cameras, they practically own the night, undetectable to the naked eye.
Yeah, and if you have any countermeasures in mind, make sure you put them in the comments, all right?
Roughly 1,300 feet in the air, they see everything, but the Russians, they barely see them coming. However, they do typically hear them, as the Baba Yaga is reportedly quite loud, but the incoming sound only heightens the tension for the Russian troops, because they know they're being hunted, and they know what's coming. Each vampire can carry up to 33 pounds of payload. That's more than enough to deliver a thermobaric warhead or a high explosive fragment.
Okay, so you see the size comparison to a human being right there, right? So if you saw it flying low overhead, some people may get the idea of, that it's bigger than it is, but I think that it's pretty much, you look at it like a big sized human, maybe a little bit bigger than a human. I don't know, kind of like a giant spider.
Bomb to its target. From anti-tank mines to shape-charged munitions, these drones can pack some serious firepower. It's like sending in a stealth bomber, but for just $10,000 a pop. Cheap, deadly, and devastatingly accurate.
Only
The last
$10,000
characteristic
a pop.
is especially important in the war in Ukraine. After all, the country can't afford to waste any precious rounds, which often happens with artillery. The vampire drones, they don't miss. They almost always hit their mark. This makes them quite an economic killer, saving Ukraine's limited ammunition, one devastating strike at a time. Another characteristic that must be added to the vampire's long list of impressive features is its remarkable range. For such an affordable weapon, it boasts a combat radius of 5 to 7.5 miles, meaning that a single vampire can launch devastating strikes from a safe distance, keeping its operators out of harm's way while wreaking havoc on enemy positions.
That's amazing. That's an amazing distance right there. If you think about it, like, I mean, compared to the drones that someone else, like a hobbyist drone, something that you're going to get off Amazon, to be able to fly this thing miles away and then come back, like, literally, you could fly this up to the store and back, like from your house, right? If you like live in a city or a town kind of area, you probably could fly this to the store and back, and like just fly it down there, get it to pick some stuff up for you, and come back to you, land in your backyard or whatever. You don't have to leave the house.
This range is crucial on the fluid battlefield of Ukraine, where front lines shift rapidly and staying out of sight is a matter of survival. It allows the Ukrainian forces to maintain the element of surprise, launching unexpected attacks that can leave Russian units scrambling. These attacks can come from altitudes of up to 1,300 feet, making the vampire drones a formidable threat. Sometimes this threat is the last to come, as smaller reconnaissance drones are sent to scout for targets before the Baba Yaga swoops in.
So I think that they're showing their own drone here. Like, I don't think this is one that actually is in use, because you'd see this sucker. I mean, it may be daytime. You see the sucker at night. It's got lights on it. So these little ones like this are great surveillance. You want to be low and hard to see, And you're just basically, like they're saying, gathering intelligence with these little ones.
In for the kill. But what exactly are the vampire drones
In
targeting?
the
Well, their
vampire
mission
syndrome.
scope extends beyond the front lines.
Game
These
over,
drones strike
man.
not only at Ukrainian enemies within the country, but also targets within Russia itself. For instance, Ukrainian operators actively focus on Russian mortars that pose a threat to their infantry. A single
buildings.
successful strike on these critical artillery
I'm gonna show you
pieces
that after
can
this.
render them ineffective for days, significantly impacting the enemy's firepower. Often the mission even involves dropping multiple bombs on these mortars to neutralize them altogether and prevent them from contributing to the ongoing conflict. In addition to mortars, vampire drones have gained a reputation for their effectiveness against tanks, particularly during night operations. Operating primarily at night, the vampire drones utilize advanced thermal imaging technology, granting them a significant tactical advantage. This enables them to operate undetected while successfully locating Russian forces. They can
So, like, I'm starting to think here. I mean, if you just had a bunch of drones, and I'd have drone tanks, I guess. I mean, but why? What are tanks going to do now? If you could just start flying 100 drones at a time and drop bombs on stuff, isn't that kind of better than a tank? I mean, I don't. I'm starting to see like the utilization or the necessity for tanks kind of like diminishing with this new evolution in military tech.
deliver mortar-sized
I mean, someone that's in the armed forces could probably comment for me and let me know what tanks are very effective, and maybe they're evolving tanks. Like I would think that everything's going to go drone at some point and unmanned at least. Remote controlled, unmanned, droned, AI programmed, whatever. You have a line of AI tanks sitting on a border guarding it. Okay, I guess I could see some needs for that. You can't ship in a bunch of equipment on the ground. But if you can just fly it on over and just drop, mortars on top of these tanks with these vampire drones after you scout them out, I'm starting to question the use of tanks, and are they worth the money now?
Munitions directly onto armored vehicles,
They make it look
capitalizing
too
on their
easy.
stealth capabilities. This not only disrupts the enemy's armor, but also forces Russian units to reconsider their deployment strategies. The
Right.
vampires also play a
I'm saying.
vital role in logistical support by transporting essential supplies like food and water to frontline troops. In many instances, they conduct as many as 5 to 6 deliveries a day, ensuring that soldiers in remote or dangerous areas receive the nourishment they need to maintain their combat effectiveness. And that's
It's
not even all.
wild.
The vampires can also function as a mothership, equipped with signal repeaters and anti-jamming equipment. This capability extends the operational range and battery life of secondary drones, enhancing their overall effectiveness on the battlefield.
Yeah, so they start to add like that's wild, right? So that like one of those can repeat a signal so that other drones can travel farther. I guess charge up, things like that, and also it said jamming, right? So you could throw one of these suckers up above something in an area, jam up communications, jam up other tech, and then bring your tech in underneath of it. So you gotta talk about the evolution of aerial warfare. These vampire drones can become the hubs, if you will, for smaller swarms of drones with more capabilities, more maneuverability, I guess. And as they set above and jam signals and dictate uh, orders, like the AI could literally live on the vampire drone, and then and based on what it's seeing at the time, give directions to the other drones that's underneath its command, if you will.
Finally, by providing air support to the Ukrainian troops, the Vampire allows infantry units to remain safer while effectively targeting enemy positions from above. This aerial support is vital for maintaining defensive lines against Russian advances, and it exemplifies how modern warfare blends technology with tactical ingenuity. In this high-stakes game of cat and mouse, the Vampire drones stand out as multifaceted tools in Ukraine's arsenal, flying often and striking hard. However, it's also important to note that the hexacopter we've been describing is only one of 3 vampire weapons used
There
by
you
the
go.
Ukrainian armed forces.
Okay, so now they're going to get into some of these other like ground kind of techs that go with it, and then we're going to get into the dogs. They're coming up. But and this is just stage 1, like, right? This is like the big drone war. So this is an advanced stage of using this, but as time goes on, give it another 10 years, and what are you looking at, right? That's what I'm talking about as far as us understanding this information and using it to kind of think about and grow our knowledge about the future. and what to expect, right? To be able to troubleshoot, to be able to look forward in time by understanding what's going on for real right now, instead of like what we're hearing on mainstream media, news, internet, social media, new media, conspiracy grifters. There's all kinds of people out there trying to float their narrative, right? I'm just trying to keep it based as best I can, and bring you guys the very best information. And so if you dig that, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you hit the thumbs up, make sure you share this out, man. I'm really trying to grow the channel, and I think that we got a good thing going on here, as far as a good niche for people that are outside the influence of the establishment narrative, but also not taken in by the griftiness or the rabbit holeness of the second view, the alternative narrative. This is the crew here. This is the area. This is the channel you want to come to for base takes on things with good research, where we take our time coming to decisions about things. We reinvest time and research into vetting our ideas, revetting our sources, revetting our belief system. So we make sure that we're staying based in truth, based in reality, and not based in some narrative, right? So anyways, if you like the kind of stuff, you're in the right place. Make sure you hit the subscribe, thumbs up, bell, and all that stuff. All right, let's get back to it. So again, we're looking at this so we can kind of think about, okay, so in our own airspace, in our own world, imagine a country able to fly 5 to 7 miles across our border, maybe coming from Canada. I'm not ruling out Canada. I mean, think about some of these places where stuff's coming from. I'm not ruling out Canada. I mean, why do we think Canada, it couldn't be partaking in some of this stuff, because it's Canada? I mean, they're very much globalist controlled kind of place, right? So they could be having and Chinese do they do military drills there. It's funny how we don't ever think about looking into what's going on in the Canadian government's up to, right? Got Justin Trudeau there. Does anybody trust that guy? I don't. So I don't see why they couldn't be having some secret ops running across the Canadian border, maybe outside of even the purview of the Canadian military, if they're the good people of Canada. I love the people in Canada. They're good people. The government sucks, and the government's attached to the globalist government, the higher ups, right? The UN, the WEF, that bigger agenda, and they're also buddy with China. And so anybody that the globalists tell them to be cool with, they're cool with, right? And to do, and participate in, they are like, okay, yes, we'll do it. So that has nothing to do with the people there. However, they could be flying 5 to 7 miles across, or more across the Canadian US border to run exercises to gather intel. Also, we've mentioned this before, the Chinese government owns a bunch of land near military bases, as was pointed out in the Dr. Phil Donald Trump interview, where Dr. Phil showed Donald Trump, look, why does the CCP own so much land around our military bases? See that case right there? See this case? I mean, dude, they could ship some of these things in, have them out there, for a while, and then pop them out once a year and test them out and see what they can do with them. I mean, there's a lot of stuff can go on with this kind of technology within our own borders. There doesn't have to be a mothership or any kind of other kind of stuff going on, or some kind of invasion. It could literally happen from within our own borders, and we would be in trouble. Like, that's why I don't think communist China should own any land in the United States. I don't think any country should own any land in the United States. Only Americans should own American land. That's just one reason why, especially with the innovation of technology. So wait till we get to these robot dogs.
The attack drone was developed by the Ukrainian company Skyfall, and it reportedly originates from an agricultural octocopter. Next is the American Vampire anti-aircraft and land attack missile system, capable of guiding advanced precision kill weapon system rockets using a laser beam. This relatively new system was part of the military assistance package worth nearly $3 billion, which was announced in August 2022. Finally, there's the Czech RM-70 Vampire multiple rocket launcher.
Now, why all these things called Vampire? I mean, the Vampire drone was like, for me, is that who makes it? Vampire? Made by Vampire. I thought maybe because it flew at night and it was dark, it was a dark, mysterious thing that can creep in and go on hunt. It goes on hunts at night. That makes it very vampiric, right? These are like remote control vehicles with missiles on them.
An upgraded version of the BM-21 Grad multiple launch rocket system, the RM-70 Vampir is designed for rapid
Vampir.
reloading in the field, allowing the Ukrainian forces to sustain their firepower during combat operations without being tethered to a
That
logistics
thing
chain.
looks
With all
wicked.
these vampires lurking around, the Ukrainian battlefield is no longer just a war zone. It's a full-blown
Yeah.
horror
Okay.
show
So
for
there
the
you go. Yeah. It's made by Vampir, huh? Okay. That's why it's called that. I thought it was a nickname. So, okay. These are all made by the same company. This is some wicked stuff for sure. I mean, those things look mean, right? But you got one of these things firing off, right? And you got to send your own drones over there to mess it up, man. This warfare is going to get really. We just want to avoid war at all costs now. We really want to find a way to not get involved in battles with people, and we need to find a way. That's thank God Donald Trump's president now.
Russians. And the last thing they needed to make their nightmare even worse was the arrival of robot dogs.
Here we
Yet
go.
that's precisely what's happening in Ukraine. And
Yep.
how do we know? 2 words: social media. The robot dogs officially entered the game in August 2024, when the Telegram channel of the Ukrainian 28th Mechanized Brigade posted a video of a robot dog patrolling.
Okay, so where do we hear that? Where do we hear that name? 28th Mechanized Brigade. That was in the article we opened this up by this section of the show up by reading, right? That was literally something that we talked about in terms of this attack that was set against Russia with drones. This drone attack against Russia. And the Telegram messaging app was again mentioned in the same AP article that we read at the beginning of this this portion of the show, right? The mechanized brigade.
A heavily damaged town. The video described the robot dog as having a multitude of talents and a wide potential for use on the battlefield, and added that these 4-legged robotic friends are poised to influence the course of hostilities, just as drones once changed the war. In a post later published to X, formerly Twitter, by the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, the commander of the same unit, the 28th Mechanized Brigade, said that every unit should own such a dog. A Ukrainian operator then demonstrated the capabilities of these robot dogs at an undisclosed location in Ukraine. The robot dog was even shown accompanying a Ukrainian soldier of the
Look at them.
Kortitsia
They're fist bumping, dude. They're fist bumping.
unit, with the soldier relying on the robot's thermal imaging camera for surveillance in a wooded area. However,
There you go. Think about that, man. You can send your dog in, right, to creep along and just sit still and do a thermal image surveillance, right? So now you talk about drones that are able to fly 5 to 7 miles in, right, the territory, the vampire, right? Drones with dogs attached. Drop the dogs off, let them run, get imaging, pick up surveillance, pick up intelligence, right? Run back to meet the drone, and then the drone can literally just fly off undetected. So now think about this. So now, how are you going to work that? How are you going to protect your country when you know that that's a possibility? This is literally being used in warfare, in a war that we're involved in over on the other side of the world, like in Russia, the Russia-Ukraine war. It literally is being used there already. So how are you going to protect the homeland against this type of intelligence gathering and potential? I mean, dude, these things could do a lot of stuff, right? And I know that a lot of people are going to default to it. Well, our own government will do it to ourselves. Yeah, or another government can do it, and we would think our own government did it to us, right? I mean, there could be a lot of very nasty business going on. So how do we get ahead of this? Drop your ideas in the comments, and be sure to come to the lives when I get back to town, and talk to me about it, man. So we'll be doing another one of these live again the week following Christmas and so on.
it was roughly a month later that the robot dogs first came into contact with the vampire drones, well, at least publicly. In late September, Ukraine News Live shared a video on X showing a drone dropping a robot dog, referred to as a combat robot scout, in a field before the dog rose to its feet and started walking. As of August 2024, there are reportedly over 30 robot dogs roaming somewhere on the Ukrainian front lines. They're
30. Now, our Secret Service is already, these robot dogs are roaming Mar-a-Lago, right? So they're now going to be deployed as a part of Secret Service wherever President Trump is. So welcome to Dog World. Robot Dog World is here.
presence undoubtedly marks a pivotal advancement in modern warfare, blending cutting-edge technology with tactical operations. As these robotic companions join the fight, the Russians are facing a new kind of adversary, one that walks, scans, and strategizes, and yet doesn't fire, doesn't need rations, and certainly doesn't get demoralized. But let's back up for a second. Just as the vampire drone wasn't the first or the only drone the Ukrainian forces used in the conflict, this intriguing robot dog is part of a broader trend of introducing robotics on the battlefield. Let's do a brief overview of the robotic platforms used in Ukraine before discussing these new and advanced four-legged companions. At the forefront of this robotic revolution are the combat robots designed for fierce engagements on the front lines. These machines are engineered for remote combat operations, so they can conduct assaults, defend positions, and perform surveillance, all while their operators remain safely sheltered.
Okay, hold on. What makes these robots versus remote control vehicles? I mean, I just, when I saw this part, I was like, the dog I get the dog, I get the drone. The dog is definitely the robot in the group here, and to me. But this was like a remote control car. Remote control helicopters or drones, right? Remote control car. These are just remote control vehicles that we've, been playing with our whole lives, but just on a battlefield and then all juiced up. So what makes this a robot? That's why when they played this, I've watched this a few times now, just to get in preparation for the stream. I don't understand what makes this a robot, but and they never really tell you, but they categorize them the same way. So take it for what it's worth.
Up to 2.5 miles away. Equipped with a range of weaponry, including the 7.62mm PKT and PKM machine guns and the 12.7mm NSVT and M2 Browning machine guns, these robots can pack quite a punch. Notably, some models are fortified against small arms fire and come with thermographic cameras for nighttime engagements. The models in this category include the Chablia M2, the Lyot, the Moroz, and the D11. The versatile D2111 can also swiftly transition from a combat platform to a transport system, enabling rapid response in any frontline situation. This robust array of combat robots exemplifies how Ukraine has embraced technology to enhance its offensive military capabilities. However, the integration of robotics doesn't stop there. The evolution continues with the self-destruct.
Yeah, but what's robotic about that? That's just like we've had this type of stuff before. So I'm just curious what makes it robotic.
Robots and mine layers, which serve a critical role in neutralizing enemy armored vehicles. These robots can carry up to 2 TM62 anti-tank mines, or a payload of up to 88 pounds, moving at speeds of up to 15 miles per hour, while being operated remotely from distances of up to 3.4 miles away. Noteworthy models include the Rattle S, the Arc 1, and the PD-15 Foxy, all designed to wreak havoc on Russian positions and logistical routes with mines. Finally, we have the logistical robots, which are the backbone of supply and evacuation efforts on the front lines. These versatile machines can transport provisions, ammunition, and equipment, as well as evacuate wounded soldiers. With a carrying capacity of up to 1,300 pounds and an operational range of 25 miles, these robots are nothing short of lifesavers for Ukrainian troops. They also come in tracked models for increased cross-country abilities and wheeled designs for an even speedier delivery. Significant models in this category include the Volaya E, the Rattle H, the Rice Pro, the KNLR-E, and the Sierco S1. The robot dogs we're focusing on in this video belong to a separate category, surveillance and reconnaissance. Unlike traditional drones that soar above the fray, these four-legged technological marvels navigate challenging terrains, moving through dense forests, inside buildings, and along narrow trenches. Their ability to traverse obstacles and remain stable on uneven ground allows them to reach areas that are often too dangerous for human soldiers. The specific tasks these robotic dogs undertake include exploration of hazardous environments. They scout ahead of troops, locating enemy positions, and identifying threats such as mines or booby traps. In a sense, they serve as scouts, laying the groundwork for human soldiers to follow safely. Surveillance operations. Equipped with advanced cameras and sensors, these robots gather critical intelligence, transmitting real-time video feeds back to commanders. Thanks to their small size, they can operate stealthily, often camouflaged to blend into their surroundings.
Dude, if one of those dogs could come get dropped off by a drone, right? And then it could like run into an area, and then a bunch of little spider drones can come jump off the dog and just do like little, and then come back to the dog. The dog would be the home base for the spider drones. The spider drones can get into little crevices and cracks and crawl up trees and do all the things a dog can't do. Yeah, it's gonna get like that. So just let your imaginations run wild here.
Logistical support. While primarily used for reconnaissance, the robot dogs can also carry payloads of up to 9 pounds, enabling them to deliver ammunition, medical supplies, or explosives to the frontline troops. This logistical support minimizes the risk to human lives while ensuring that the soldiers have the necessary resources, a goal many of the autonomous systems we've mentioned seek to accomplish. Data security. In a tactical environment where information is vital, these robots can erase sensitive data immediately if they're captured, ensuring that the Russian forces can't exploit any intelligence they might gain. These smart dogs currently deployed in Ukraine are predominantly used by the 28th Mechanized Brigade, particularly the unit known as Medoid, which translates to honey badger. However, this isn't the first time robot dogs have been used or showcased. In fact, prior to their use in Ukraine, several
first time uses footage. I mean, can you get some new footage, guy?
Countries were experimenting with robotic dog technology. Unsurprisingly, the US has been at the forefront of developing and deploying this technology. Initially, the Big Dog, developed by Boston Dynamics in 2005, was envisioned as a robotic pack mule for US troops. Though it was ultimately discontinued due to its noise issues, it laid the groundwork for future developments. Spot, a smaller, quieter robot dog, emerged in 2015, primarily for reconnaissance and security tasks. It's been used in various roles, including supporting military bases and identifying hazardous situations. China has also been making strides in this technology, but their dogs came with a twist. They're armed with various weapon systems. In recent years, the People's Liberation...
Oh, yeah. Gotta love your communists, man. They're not scared to tell you, hey, I'm an authoritarian and I'm proud of it.
Army has been aggressively pursuing the integration of robotic technology.
Do as we say or we shoot.
Technologies into the military, signaling a potential arms race in robotic warfare. And where there's
do you think there's gonna be an arms race in robotic warfare? If you think there is, let me know your opinions down there in the comments.
Military race, there's Russia. At a 2022 Weapons Expo, Russia fitted a Chinese unitary robotics dog with an RPG-26 rocket launcher, attempting to demonstrate the military potential of even commercially available robots. Interestingly, the price of this robot was hiked to over $16,000, roughly 4 times its actual cost. Apparently, they determined that if they can't innovate, they might as well inflate.
What? That is, again, just a knock on Russia, but let's take a look at this thing again. I mean, it's just saying that they had like a ninja dog, right? Ninja dog with a big old rocket on its back for what? If it's 4 times the price, it's only $8,000. That's cheap. That's cheap warfare, man. I think it costs more than that to take care of a soldier. Soldiers are more expensive than an $8,000 rocket launcher ninja dog. I mean, come on.
However, Chinese unitary robotics is important for this video for another reason. You see, according to Forbes, the robotic dogs used in Ukraine closely resemble those developed by this Chinese company. The Unitree Go2 Pro, identified as the legged equivalent of the Chinese...
It's the best dancer on the market.
...made DJI quadcopters, is both efficient and easily available at a low cost, priced between $2,800 to
$2,800, $2,000 to $3,000 for a military asset that's this advanced. And not only that, it's got a Chinese got a back door to it, probably. They're just winning everything right now. That's why we talk about we don't want to give the military money. We don't put money into the military. This is the shit we're having to compete with right here. I mean, yeah, this is private business, right? But in communist China, all business is government. So we have to compete with this, and we have to make sure that when this gets rolled out to other countries, right, that they want our stuff and not communist China's backdoor tech bullshit, right?
$3,000. It features a top speed.
It's a fucked up world. I mean, we're just better off like just peace, no wars, but people are still going to make this stuff and still prepare for it. The whole peace through strength thing, things our military is going to be able to do in the next 5 to 10 years. It's a hard pill to swallow, but this is what we're competing against. We're competing against technology and innovation that are far beyond what we grew up with. Like, it may be an easier pill for younger people to swallow, but us Gen Xers and older, and millennials too, man, you guys are getting old too, man. But we grew up with a different kind of warfare, and we wanted wars to stop, and we love those years of peace that Trump brought us. But this is what's going on in development of war tech and technology and surveillance tech and so on. Unfortunately, as long as there's communist China and Russia and Iran's, and as long as there's authoritarian regimes out there allowed to prosper and exist and continue to subvert and try to dominate other countries, this shit's going to be, used for this kind of stuff. Instead of being helpful and bringing us coffee, it's going to be out there trying to suppress other people through, or be on a battlefield somewhere trying to aid one army and killing the other.
Speed of 11 miles per hour, weighs under 30 pounds, and has an intelligent control system equipped with multiple fisheye cameras. Its powerful 1.5 teraflop processor and smart software allow it to maintain stability
Wow.
on uneven surfaces and even follow operators visually. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Well, it might be just a coincidence.
When's the last time you ran 17 miles an hour?
As the German newspaper Bild claims that the Ukrainian robot dogs were developed and sent by British risk management company and drone manufacturer Brit Alliance. The company's managing director, Kyle Thorburn, stated that these machines were born due to repeated concerns about the increasingly frequent reports of losses on the front line by enemy drones. Essentially, this makes the robot dogs a safer solution for reconnaissance missions in high-risk zones. But here's where the mystery lies. When Brit Alliance was later contacted for clarification, the company revealed that the specific robots shown in footage from Ukraine aren't manufactured by their company. Brit Alliance only confirmed they, in fact, supplied modified robot dogs to the military without specifying if this includes the Ukrainian military or disclosing the original manufacturer, so make of that what you will. But regardless of who the manufacturer is, the only thing that matters is that Ukraine is putting these robots to work on the battlefield, blending innovation with determination. From what we know about these robots, they boast quite impressive specifications and features that enhance their effectiveness on the battlefield. Capable of running at speeds of up to 9 miles per hour, these robotic companions can swiftly maneuver through various terrains, providing tactical advantages in rapidly changing combat scenarios. With a battery life of up to 5 hours, they can sustain operations for extended periods without the need for recharging, allowing them to cover significant ground and gather intelligence. But what truly sets them apart is their remarkable stealth capability. These dogs carry a heat signature similar to that of a rabbit, making detection by Russian unmanned aerial vehicles considerably more challenging.
Heat signature of a rabbit. Good luck with that. Now you got to try to figure that out too, right? Stealthy, small, durable, long-lasting, and barely detectable.
Further enhancing their concealment, the robots can be draped in camouflage blankets made by
And then they got cute little clothes they dress them up in too. I mean, does it ever stop?
German suppliers Concamo, allowing them to blend seamlessly into their surroundings.
Wow.
When stationary, they effectively merge with the background vegetation, becoming nearly invisible to both visual observation and thermal imaging.
That's what I'm talking about right there. Like, you got these nighttime, no lights, stealthy drones that can go from way high up in the sky, travel miles at a time, be on satellite relay circuits instead of like remote controls, basically, according to what Andrew was talking about in the first video. And then you drop them down into areas and send them in. I mean, these things can literally be surrounding U.S. military bases. And if we'd have to, like, how do we know? How do we know if like these are one, price, purpose, people, places? We have to understand if this is actually being done to us in different places around the world. But you can drop these things in, gather intelligence, have it literally sitting there, and until it's detected, leave it there for days. No one will know. If you're not looking for it, you don't know it's there. It'll just sit there, just soaking it up until it has to go get recharged. And if you got a solar recharger on it, it can just sit in the sun and recharge. I mean, this is where the world's going. So, people are worried about flashy lights in the sky, and then you got the UFO grifters out there going, it's aliens from the sixth the earth. And it's like, there's all kinds of things of distractions and mud and noise out there. This is the shit people ought to be concerned about right here. I'm pointing it out. Like, this is where it's going. Like, countermeasures and understanding how to detect these things and keep them out of our country, keep them out of being used against the American people. This is where the real concern gets. So, we refocus on the root cause issues here. And this is a root cause. This is an issue. This is a real live issue. And now, while it's symptomatic, it's a symptomatic response to a deeper root cause issue. This is a scary one because these things literally can be dropped in from the sky, undetected, They can blend in with wildlife. They can be completely, like we said, resilient, stealthy, and long lasting. And we might not ever think to even look for them right now at this point in the game. This is freaking wild.
Cost of these advanced machines ranges from $4,400 to $8,800, making
Nothing.
them a
That's nothing. That's nothing in a military budget. Nothing.
relatively affordable asset in modern warfare.
Yeah.
When it comes to deploying these advanced robots, the operation is both sophisticated and intuitive. They can be controlled remotely, with operators using a handheld device or a computer interface to direct their movements. The robots feature advanced FPV cameras, enabling their operators to see from the robot's perspective in real time. When deployed, the robotic dogs can scout areas and relay video feeds
For now, I mean, I don't know if they mentioned AI or not, but you don't need to have some dude sitting in a tent with a mask on. You could have that. You can grab it and be like, how's my dog doing? But literally, your dog could be on its own AI program. You don't need to have that. You set a routine, a workflow. They're really easy to program. AI could program the workflow. It just knows what to go do. I mean, we have smart devices in our home that trigger and react to things already. So the AI can tell it to go, you GPS map it, go here, do this, do that for this amount of time, then do this, then do that, then return here to do this. And then on that time, you get your pickup from your little vampire buddy and you go flying off into the distance or whatever it is, right? You don't have to have Joey Ukraine sitting in a tent steering it the entire time. You literally could let the AI run it and then you check in on it. You run it on a cycle, a schedule, and then when it returns, you see how it did, right? So, I mean, this kind of testing could be going on and probably is going on right now.
To commanders, providing crucial intelligence about enemy positions and terrain. Thanks to this data-driven approach, the Ukrainian troops have substantially better situational awareness, while their leaders can make informed decisions on the battlefield. If necessary, these mechanic dogs can also operate fully autonomously.
There we go.
So, by following predefined routes or tracking operators. One look at all these features is enough to understand why robot dogs are so significant to the Ukrainian military. They can cover ground that would be difficult for traditional surveillance methods and transport supplies to contested areas, all the while reducing the risk to human lives. But there's one more significant aspect of these robots worth mentioning: the sheer psychological terror. Similarly to their transportation systems, the vampire drones, the presence of robotic dogs on the battlefield instills fear and uncertainty in Russian forces. After all,
as you can make them growl when they approach, man, people be shitting their pants.
The Russian troops have barely been able to deal with the relentless onslaught of Ukrainian drones. Now they've got four-legged nightmares dropping from the sky to contend with. And these robots aren't just canvassing Ukrainian territory. No, these fearless robotic animals are venturing behind enemy lines, gathering intel and delivering supplies where human soldiers dare not tread. So good luck sleeping at night, comrades. Now it's time for you to chime in. What do you make of this bizarre duo of robotic dogs and vampire drones? Should we be excited about the dawn of a new era in military tactics, or should we be concerned about what these advanced technologies could do beyond the battlefield? Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Now,
yeah, let us know. Let me know in the comment section below. And if I'm probably watching this with you in the chat right now, fill it up, baby. Let's talk about it. I got another video coming up. I got two more for you, and then we're gonna get out of here. But yeah, what did you guys think of that? Holy cow, baby. Holy cow. That's some weird stuff, right? When you think about it the way that I'm framing it, right, you realize that all the mud, all the distraction, all the noise about these little aerial displays of colorful lights here at this beautiful time of year in our wonderful country are very, very, very insignificant. And and like I said, I'll be de-grifting Stephen Greer tomorrow, and his when you hear him talk now, after you've had this information, after you've had the information that we did in part one, you put these two things together. When you hear a guy like Stephen Greer talking about his bullshit, you're gonna see right through everything he's doing. Like if you didn't see it before, if you thought he was some kind of like super intelligent guy who's working with he's just so virtuous. He's just trying to get us free energy and help us evolve to 7D Earth or whatever the frick he believes in. Man, he's gonna sound like complete nonsense now to you. Now that you've had this upgraded information, right? He's gonna. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. We're all getting there together, man. We're all walking to the truth together. That's what we do here. And so let me get the next video up. But yeah, right now, like we're chatting it up, right? It's funny. I'm probably tripping out because I'm listening to myself talk about things as I'm in the chat. And then since this was pre-recorded and it's kind of new, it's going to be insane. I'll give you guys a little preview of part 3 too. I promise that. All right. Where is that freaking video? Yeah, here we go. Why is, do I need to refresh it? Why you sit? I see his face, but I don't see the video. What I want to do now is bring in a base take on what we just saw. And okay. Future of drones. Wait a second. It's on. Now I know the problem. Maybe not. All right. What are we looking at here? Why is that there? But sorry. Fine. No, John. No. Go back. That's a different video. Where's the one that I just got through looking at? Hold on. Give me a second. Let's see. Hold on. Okay. Here we go. This is the we're gonna do this first. This is the moment a plane, a drone hits Russian tower, blocks and mass attack trigger giant explosion. It's just from the sun. Let's just take a look at it real quick. And that's just to say it can be used in many different ways, right? The shocking moment, a Russian skyscraper was hit by what is expected to be a Ukrainian drone strike. So yeah, it's all over the place, right? Everybody's in on it. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the future of warfare right here, but it's already in the present warfare as well. So what I want to bring up now is the next video and the last one of this evening. This very base take from a couple weeks ago from Ryan Macbeth on the future of drone operations. So this is like from 2 weeks ago even. Let me get that ready for you right now. I'll just click it like that. So here we go. I think this is a good thing to think about on the tail end of what we've learned tonight. And then we'll be wrapping it up. So let's let Ryan take it away. And if you're not sure about who Ryan Macbeth is, look into him. Former military, intelligence, drone programming operation, all around cyber smart guy, base taker for the most part. I mean, I've seen some, we all have our moments, but for the most part, he's right on this issue. And he says a lot of really cool grounded stuff. Very helpful in the in negating the drone searching for radioactive material narrative that was coming out of the mainstream establishment narrative. But here you go.
What changes does the US and NATO need to make in order to stay relevant in the drone and missile age? In October of 2024, I was invited to the JAPCC, or Joint Air Power Competence Center, to speak on a panel about drones. And as it just so happens, I work for a drone company, the Texera MedLab, which develops AI-powered drones that use artificial intelligence to deliver whole blood to wounded soldiers. And by the way, guys, I heard you. I heard all your feedback. So if you only have like $300 to invest, the CEO opened up a WeFunder, and that will convert to equity after the first price round, which will probably be Series A. So if you're interested in investing, head over to WeFunder if you don't have $50,000. But I want to talk about the 4 topics I spoke about at the JAPCC conference, as well as some other hot topics from the conference. So we're dealing with quite a few big problems right now, one of which is called the Red Queen problem, like from Alice in Wonderland. The technology of drones is advancing so rapidly that we have to run really fast just to stay in the same place. And when this war in Ukraine started, nobody was thinking about drones. But when I was at the AUSA convention back in October of 2024, everything was about drones and the ways of countering drones. Everything on the floor was drone or counter drone. There is a possibility that just within the conflict in Ukraine, we may see the rise and the fall of drones. When the war first started, Ukraine used small drones out of desperation, and there just weren't that many ways to counter.
There's your vampire right there.
Small cheap drones.
I think that's very small, or a small vampire right there, but or a very big grenade. Take your pick.
But in just a few short years, counter drone tech is becoming more of a reality.
Look at that.
From anti-drone jammers to laser weapons to drones that dogfight other drones. Back when humanity was just figuring out how to wage war, the first weapon was a spear, just a pointy stick. And then the tech improved to create shields to stop the pointy sticks. So then someone created bows and arrows to hit the shield holders from a longer range. So then someone created cavalry to attack the bowmen from behind, and on and on and on. We also have a very 1860s view of war, and I really do mean 1860s. And from the 1860s until basically now, war was always a contest of mass and time. You get the fustest with the mostest, to paraphrase American Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest. But today, wars are won and lost on the electromagnetic spectrum.
Look at that. This is Drone Buster.
If you can't use your radios, but the adversary can, you are at a major disadvantage. Whoever owns the electromagnetic spectrum owns the drones and the battlefield. The spectrum is a 0-1-sum game. There's only one spectrum, and we need to dominate it in order to win. The electromagnetic spectrum is the new high ground. We also have to think about space as a domain of warfare. Without space, there's no GPS, and the advantage that the United States had during the global war on terror, controlling drones in Afghanistan all the way from Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada, that's gone.
Space Force. Now you see why we needed a Space Force.
Space warfare is kind of weird because we have to decide how much life to give up in a satellite in order to move it, in order to be effective on the battlefield, or in order to avoid anti-satellite weapons. And satellites only have so much fuel on board, and you can't refuel thrusters in space. Imagine if you bought a car and you only had one tank of gasoline in that car, like you couldn't put more gas in the gas tank. You would be very judicious about how and when you use that car, right? I mean, that's basically satellites. You can't do maneuver warfare in space. But what if you have to do maneuver warfare in order to keep your drones on the ground running effectively? So another component of this might be creating small, cheap satellites that can be launched on demand to keep up with the enemy attriting our satellites. Oh, and I still have 3 more subjects to go, but first I have to tell you about ground.
Okay, so he's gonna talk about ground news, and maybe one day I will too, because I have signed up for the affiliate program, but I don't know if I will get picked because I'm not a big deal. But anyways, I'm gonna stop him right there because I forgot at the end of the last video to talk about counter measures. Okay, so when it comes to the dogs, right? The dogs have a weakness. Dogs have a weakness. They need to see to be effective. All right. Their eyes are the weakness. So paint bombs, if you want to counter a robot dog, you need a paint gun. You need a paint pellet gun. So like if you go to paint gun battles or whatever, that's what you need. That's all. You just need a badass one that can hit and rapid fire. So just get out your old game and stuff. Get your paintball. If you go paintballing, right? Get your paintball gun or an upgraded version of it with a high blast rate. And you can even use your own robot dog to find the other robot dog and use that robot dog or your own drone to fire paintballs at the enemy dog. So once you cover those lenses up, dude, that dog is useless. That dog won't run. So yeah, as scary as they seem, right? And as creepy as they are and as effective as they can be at being very stealthy and maybe even having a machine gun on their back, you throw paint on that sucker, it ain't gonna do shit. It becomes useless. It's like, spraying mist in someone's eyes, or you spit a bunch of mist in there like the wrestlers do. Spit a bunch of mist in their mouth, their eyes, and they can't do anything. They can be the biggest, baddest wrestler on earth. That once they get that mist in their eyes, they get pinned, right? So yeah, that's how you take down your drone dogs. So don't stress about it. Just get yourself a paintball gun, and you're all good.
Plan that I use and start getting the whole news with ground news.
Ground news is awesome, by the way. I just want to plug ground news. Shout out to ground news. If I get a sponsorship from them, it is what it is. At least it'll be a start, but affiliate program, that is. I think anybody can sign up for it. If I get it, that's great. It'll give me practice, working on something like that and having something to say, hey, look, I got something, But I don't expect many people to sign up. But it's it's very cool. I think they only let you do like the biggest plan they have, and that big plan is like, you get a discount on it. But we'll see. Anyways, back to the program, y'all.
I want to talk about masking. When I say masking, you probably think, oh, camouflage, but it's so much more than that. Back during the global war on terror, we used these whole Taj Mahal type TOCs, or tactical operations centers. And so we're talking about TOCs with rooms with hundreds of people in them who controlled the air war and the ground war. Today, these operation centers would be major targets for ballistic missiles or small, cheap drones. The days of the Taj Mahal TOC are over. This means smaller, more mobile TOCs, or even TOCs that are actually multiple talks that are spread around the battlefield. So instead of having a single antenna at the center of your command post, you might have multiple antennas spread out over hundreds of meters. If the adversary finds you, they target you. And if they target you, they will destroy you. Now, the Air Force has taken steps to prevent this with a doctrine called ACE, or Agile Combat Employment. Now, the whole idea behind ACE is that you're constantly moving aircraft. Theater ballistic missiles fired by an adversary are a very precious asset, and they can only be used once. You don't want to fire them and have them just land in an empty airfield. Remember, every time you fire a ballistic missile, number one, you consume that ballistic missile. You can't use it again. But number two, you give away your launch location. So you can never use that launch location again because it's just simpler math to figure out where the launch came from. So you burn that launch location once you fire a missile. So you have to have a good target that's worth burning your launch location and burning a missile every single time you fire. Now, this ACE doctrine isn't necessarily new. Countries like Sweden and Finland have made it part of their doctrine. It's been their doctrine for quite a while. That's where you see them landing on civilian highways. And yes, by massing your forces and constantly moving them, it is a strategy, but you need to also think in multiple spectrums, including the spectrums we can't see. You might cover a tank with branches, but the heat from that tank will reveal your position. And every time you use the radio, despite the radio frequency hopping, going up and down the channel, the adversary can figure out where you are. And finally, there's also the spectrum of social media, infodom war, or information domain warfare, which is a component of warfare. You can move your planes all you want, according to the ACE doctrine, but all it takes is one maintainer to upload a selfie with geolocation data to Instagram, and now the adversary knows exactly where your planes are. So our solution to the tyranny of the spectrum and social media may be to get over our fear of AI. So this is the third thing I talked about. When I talk about AI in the military, people instantly think of the Terminator, and with good reason. Emotionless killing machines are pretty terrifying. But our adversaries may not have the same trepidation. Look, we already have killer AI. The Navy's Aegis system, which is on every single destroyer, it's fully automated. It is a killer AI. You turn that thing on, and it automatically figures out which targets to engage across multiple platforms. And it has to, because naval warfare in the missile age happens at machine speed. It happens faster than a human can think. The Patriot system, that's fully automated as well. It has to be because ballistic missiles travel really, really fast, faster than a human can think. Now, both of those systems have been around since the 1980s, and Skynet hasn't become self-aware yet. We're doing pretty okay. So if our adversaries are using AI and we're not using AI, then they will be able to get inside our decision cycle, our OODA loop, observe, orient, act, decide.
Wow.
Observe, orient, decide, act, and move faster than we can react. Remember when I talked about the first spearmen? Can you imagine a unit of spearmen, and they see a cavalryman for the first time? Like, those cavalrymen must have looked like monsters. They're half man, half horse, inhuman, kind of like AI. So how fast could a cavalryman have gotten inside the decision cycle, the OODA loop of the spearman?
Wow.
Like I said at the beginning, I work for the Texera Med Lab, an AI drone company. Our drones don't use any GPS or any radios. They figure out how to get from our operations center to the casualty by themselves. Traditional helicopter, medevac, it needs planning and perhaps coordination with gunships for escort. So think about how long it takes to get a medevac bird in the air, and then think about how long it would take to just throw an AI-powered drone in the sky and have it figure out how to get to the casualty at machine speed. That could be the difference between saving someone's life and having them bleed out.
Yep.
One of the big issues with using AI-powered drones right now in the military, and this is something we need to get over, is that the military really doesn't know how to deal with deconfliction of airspace during training, especially when around troops. The military seems okay with running drones around soldiers if there's a human in the loop. But the second you mention AI-powered drones, everybody gets scared. And with good reason. You don't always know what exactly is going to happen when you turn that automated drone on. It could crash into a person, crash into a vehicle, could crash into a low-flying helicopter. And those are all expensive accidents. There are ways to control that risk. And what the military needs to understand is that our adversaries are already operating AI-powered drones and loitering munitions with their troops in Ukraine. They've accepted that risk. We may need to accept some level of AI risk when operating near our own forces, and we need to establish control measures. But if we don't practice this in peacetime, we're going to have to figure out how to do it in combat, where the consequences of failure are a lot worse.
There you go.
Now, finally, you need to facilitate this transition with a dedicated ISR officer. Now, ISR stands for Intelligence, Surveillance, Reconnaissance. Now, this soldier would be in charge of running all of the drones at the company level. For those of you who aren't in the military, company is a tactical unit that's made up of about 100 to 250 soldiers. Usually it's more like 140. And this unit is capable of performing a battlefield function on their own. Right now, usually like 2 people from the company get picked to go to the drone class, and they become the subject matter experts for drone operations. And hopefully they'll train others. But usually when they change units or leave the military, all that experience leaves with them. And then you got to pick another guy to go to the class. A dedicated ISR officer could go to a special school, and all they do is launch, recover, and monitor drones. That's their entire freaking job. Ideally, this soldier would be a warrant officer, which is a technical specialist in the Army who ranks above a non-commissioned officer, but below a commissioned officer. All they do is their technical job, and they get really good at it. Most Army helicopter pilots are warrant officers, and all they do is fly. A warrant officer in this position would have an incentive to stay in the Army because they get to do their technical job every single day without all the ancillary duties that a commissioned officer or a sergeant has to perform. And ideally, they'll be assisted by a staff sergeant who gets to act as the assistant ISR NCO, which could be the job that feeds into that warrant officer position. So those soldiers are then assisted by drone operators at the platoon level. Now, I know that when I've spoken about this before, most people say, oh, we should have drone operators at the squad level too. I don't know about that. This is something the Marine Corps has kind of experimented with. It might work. I know the Marine Corps was considering.
And again, we're getting an idea here. I know I'm letting them go, but we're getting an idea here of what's really going on in the military in terms of drone technology and trying to create a system to counter what our enemies are doing and what kind of training maybe go on. So we're learning this information for good reason, in a sense, to kind of put a bow on what we talked about tonight in terms of the military operations, the unspoken narrative, what drones are actually doing in combat, how they're being used. And now you're seeing how the operations of these drones go down, right? So when you're thinking of it's a military operation, right? This is what it takes. Okay, so you want to imagine that it's some kind of like contractor for hire that's doing all this stuff. Think about the logistics and think about the different parameters this guy's laying out, right?
Putting a drone operator in every single squad, but also note that Marine Corps squads are larger than Army squads, and the U.S. Army tends to fight the platoon. The platoon tends to be the lowest level building block for fighting. The Army just has a different way of thinking that's correct for the Army. Also note that there is still a question as to whether drone capabilities should be accessible to every soldier or whether there should be a specialization. I tend to favor specialization because that seems what is working well in Ukraine, but more experimentation is needed. If we do go the specialization route, these drone operators at the platoon level could act as a feeder into the assistant ISR position at the company level, which is into the job as a warrant officer at the company level. Also note, we need to figure out what the heck a swarm is. I've read lots of articles that talk about drones.
Okay, look at that. Look at that.
Swarms, but nobody can seem to tell me how many drones are in a swarm. What is the maximum cognitive load that a drone operator could take? Is it 1 drone? Is it 3 drones? Is it 8 drones? If you have,
look at that, that's a swarm.
An autonomous drone that's just scanning and alerts the operator, does that add to the operator's load? I don't know. But we need to find out. We need to find.
Dude, look at that. Look at that.
That out right now.
Have you guys seen that over New Jersey?
Finally, we need a domestic drone industry. Look, this is a big ask, but right now China has the market cornered with small, cheap drones. And that means that they can scale up to military production very quickly. It also means that knowledge workers and tooling to make small, cheap drones already exists in China. One of the major problems I have at Aeromed Lab is finding parts that aren't made in China. If you can figure out how to manufacture small, cheap drones in the US,
made in America,
competitive with Chinese drones, there is certainly a market for that. Of course, if it were that easy, why hasn't anyone done? Now, this is the only thing I talked about at the JAPCC conference where I didn't have an answer. Now, back during World War II, steel was the resource that won wars. I mean, one of the reasons for strategic bombing during World War II was to target steelworks. And the steel of today are drones and components. If we can't manufacture drones cheaply ourselves, we're going to be in a lot of trouble during the next war. The future is here. We need to change our doctrine, and we need to change it today to ensure our forces are prepared for whatever comes next. And hey, if you like my Christmas sweater, you can get yourself one at Bunker.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. And that's a great sweater, dude. I love it. Only $40 to $45. Wow. Well, I've already done all my Christmas shopping. I hope you have too. Of course, by the time you see this, Christmas will have come and gone. But wow, what a lot of information there at the end by Ryan. And I think that this entire stream has this video, I guess it's a video, not really a stream, but it's been packed full of new information for you guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. I put it together in hopes that It would help bring some more light to what is going on in this world and kind of keep you focused on the right things, right? Get out of that and put a new perspective on this drone apocalypse that's going on. This drone apocalypse 2024. I guess it's gonna be 2025 and pretty soon. I'll have to change the title, but hopefully it doesn't go on past that. I mean, another prediction that I'm making is that this is going to with the oncoming inauguration and new cabinet, it's going to fade into the background just like they want it to. I think it's going to fade into the background. However, the underlying issues that it points out, that it brings to light, aren't going anywhere. So keep in mind, you are amongst the few out there with this vast scope of knowledge into this issue and what it means for the future. And that's the way we do things here at Winning Reality. So one last look at the board here, just to let you know that we will continue to work on this. I will be back soon with part 3, the UFO alien, the new drone UFO / alien grift that's going on. It's brought to you by the one, the only Stephen Greer. And just to to warm you up for that a little bit before I do get out of here, let me pull up what that's going to look like. But yeah, one last look at the board here. I'll be updating this with the new information for the night. Of course, we did look at that. I got to add Ryan to the board here just to keep our notes nice and tidy, but we did go over this tonight, and we did go over this right here. So I might even have to expand maybe make a new one, drone facts, drone and combat, drone and warfare. I may have to add another little part to this or move it out something. I'll figure it out. You guys don't have to worry about that. That's what I do. That's what I'm here to do. Keep it all straight for you, bring you the base truth, and keep it all in front of us, man. Keep it all in front of us. There you go. Drone ops, maybe drone military ops is maybe a good place for it right here. But yeah, rolling out misdirection. So now when you think about some of the stuff that you hear these governors and mayors talking about, realize these guys don't know shit, man. They're just being fed information by people who want them to say something a certain way. And there you have it. So bringing down the board here, more of that in part 3. It'll be back. The famous, the beautiful board. We love it. And let me go ahead and give you a preview of exactly what's coming in part 3. So here we go right here. Let me just present this up and up. We found out. Look at this guy. This guy. It's this dude.
We can unpack that.
Look at this guy. We found out what the drones are. Dr. Stephen Greer on Superfly with, yes, David Spade and David Carty. They have their own. They have their own podcast, and here's Stephen Greer's yapping.
All of this is a very complex story. They have the goods, they have the proof. This will be the biggest disclosure related to these sort of issues in history. Well, I say it's going to be the biggest disclosure in history, period. So in advance of that, these fascists and criminals that have at the core of these covert operations have been launching these sort of decoy drone events, and also orbs. People are seeing these orb-like things.
Yeah,
those aren't extraterrestrial either. 100% of it's man-made.
A man-made orb.
And we can unpack that. Then this is a huge problem because this is going to happen during this transition before the next president comes in.
Oh yeah,
I've been doing kind of shuttle briefings from London to.
I doubt it. I doubt it. This guy's so full of crap. Anyways, we're gonna break down this entire interview. It's an hour-long interview. I'm gonna go through it, and you're gonna hear plenty of comments, just like the ones I was making, and more, as I break down the anatomy of a new age, basically a new agey type UFO sci-fi, UFO alien psyop. That's the anatomy of a psyop. This guy is one of the best at doing it, and I will show you how to degrift the information, and I'll show you the times when he's over talking the room with his terminology, when he's skipping in and out of reality, and when he's just flat out making shit up. Anyways, part 3 coming up. Look forward to it. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you made it this far in the video, you are a champion. You are a true winner. I appreciate it so much. Hit the thumbs up on the way out the door if you haven't already. Make sure you share this out. The playlist, again, link is in the description where you can get part 1 and other breaking news segments that I've done, other things that are all a part of this wonderful thing we call Dronepocalypse 2024. Thanks again for being here. I'll see you soon. And until next time, stay based and keep on winning.
This is a friendship that